Chapter 1381. On the limestone, Qin Feng had a feeling that at this moment, he could easily kill the Qin Feng of 15 minutes ago. It was not an illusion. He truly had the ability to do so. After fusing with his current body, his primordial spirit's Tao had increased tremendously. His Tao body had almost reached the Deshang realm. His creation, mediating divine ability, had also reached the Deshang realm. These were only some of the additional benefits after fusing with his current body. There were also many other chain changes. Qin Feng closed his eyes and slowly comprehended on the green rock. He took advantage of this rare time to carefully comprehend and familiarize himself with the changes. After devouring his current body, the next step was to slay his future body. However, it was harder to slay his future body than his current body. It was impossible to achieve the 3 lives slash in a short time, unless he could obtain the future Constellation Tribulation Sutra of the East Arrival Buddha, one of the 10 Patriarchs. The future Constellation Tribulation Sutra was one of the 3 sutras of time in West Earth's numinous mountain. It contained the mysteries of time in the future. However, the future Constellation Tribulation Sutra was not as easy to obtain as the Gautama Buddha's present Tathagata Sutra. It was not easy to obtain the Buddha's Sarira. However, there was still a chance. If Qin Feng guessed correctly, the East Arrival Buddha's disciple, the yellow-browed boy, had probably descended to become a demon. He might be able to obtain an opportunity from the yellow-browed boy. The next day, just as Qin Feng, Monkey, and the others were resting in the Zhuoguo Spring, they were unexpectedly ambushed by a demon king. The demon king was a mutated centipede demon. He claimed to be the master of the Yellow Flower Monastery on the Yellow Flower Mountain thousands of miles away. For the senior brothers of the 7 spider spirits, he had to seek justice for the 7 spider spirits. Although the master of the Yellow Flower Monastery was only at the peak of the sky immortal realm, he had a half-step supreme divine ability, the 1,000-eyed golden light. Unfortunately, before the centipede demon could use the 1,000-eyed golden light, he was ambushed and captured by the black-hearted Lao Sha when he barged into the Zhuoguo Spring. After experiencing so many life and death situations, the master and disciples were no longer passive characters. After taking down the 7 spider demons, the few of them activated their supernatural powers and clearly understood the relationship between the various monsters and the Almighties within 1,000 miles. He had long known about the Yellow Flower Temple's temple master and her magic skills. The centipede spirit had delivered itself to his doorstep. Without waiting for the centipede spirit to beg for mercy, it was completely refined to death. Lao Sha didn't stop there. The centipede demon also asked for the 1,000-eye golden ray. It was a half-step supreme technique belonging to the Tao of poison. Lao Sha was very jealous of it. However, due to his identity, he didn't try to snatch it from him. Now that the centipede spirit had delivered itself to his doorstep, he wasn't going to hold back. 3 days later, they left the Zhuoguo Spring and headed west again. Not long after, they entered the territory of Lion Camel City. There were 3 demonic saints in Lion Camel City: the Azure Lion, the White Elephant, and the Golden Rock. 3 great demonic saints blocked the path, and one of them was an ancient demonic saint. There were also millions of lesser demonic beasts waving flags and cheering. This was a famous demonic saint faction in the Aparagodania continent. Even the great sage who pacifies Heaven's Bull Demon King's Emerald Cloud Mountain paled in comparison to Lion Camel City. It was an unprecedented calamity for the master and disciples. After spending a lot of effort to suppress the Azure Lion and White Elephant demonic saints, they worked together to deal with the Golden Rock. Only then did they gradually defeat the ancient demonic saint. The 3 demonic saints on Lion Camel Ridge all had some background. The Azure Lion and White Elephant demonic saints were ancient demonic beasts. Although they couldn't be called ancient demonic saints because they didn't have supreme magic skills, they weren't inferior to ordinary first-rate demonic saints. However, the Golden Rock was different. It was a true ancient demonic saint and had a connate yin-yang chaos whole divine light that could disintegrate all things. Qin Feng, the monkey, old pig, and Lao Sha worked together and ambushed the Golden Rock. They used all sorts of methods to suppress the golden rock. However, they only managed to suppress it. Soon after, a Buddhist bodhisattva descended and took the golden rock away. Qin Feng wasn't surprised by this. The golden-winged rock was said to be the uncle of the Buddhist ancestor, and he was the younger brother of the innate five-element Buddha. Such a ferocious figure wasn't someone that didn't have any backing and could be easily killed. After passing Lion Camel Ridge, the rest of the journey was much easier. The yellow-browed boy from the Lesser Thunderclap Monastery caused trouble. The little city of Baiqiu, the Black Forest Bottomless Pit, the white-furred rat Madame Yong, the extermination of France's monks, the Phoenix Immortal County praying for rain, the Yuhua Dharma Assembly, and so on. Some of the ancient demonic saints and ancient half-step golden immortals came out of seclusion. Many of the demons were strong, and even the monks were taken away by those cunning experts. However, facing the master and disciples who were getting stronger and stronger, they were scared but not in danger. Until they entered Golden Peace Manor. Golden Peace Manor wasn't far from West Earth Spirit Mountain. Everyone knew that this was the border between the Aparagadania continent's demon race and the countries under Spirit Mountain's Buddhist lands. After the hard work of the Buddhas in Spirit Mountain's Buddhist lands, the Buddhist forces had already infiltrated this place. When the master and disciples entered Golden Peace Manor, they could sense the thick Buddhist incense. Temples and monasteries were everywhere. Many people here were willing to worship the gods and Buddhas. Western cultivation was flourishing. However, after entering Golden Peace Manor, Qin Feng, the monkey, old pig, and Lao Sha could clearly sense the solemnity in the surrounding atmosphere. The master and disciples knew very well that once they passed Golden Peace Manor, their journey to the west would basically be completed. Behind them was the territory of the Buddhas in Spirit Mountain. In the territory of the Buddhas, the other factions would be limited even if they wanted to do anything. However, the other factions wouldn't let them pass Golden Peace Manor so easily. This was their last chance to strike. Golden Peace Manor, in a Buddhist temple. When a master and disciples entered the city, they chose to stay here. There were many Buddhist temples like this in Golden Peace City. The lights here flickered, and the red light hung high. The master and disciples came at the right time, just in time for the Lantern Festival. This place was unusually lively. Do you want to go? Or should I go? In the temple, Qin Feng looked at the monkey. The two of them looked in the direction of Green Dragon Mountain outside Golden Peace Manor. Even a cultivator who had just entered the sect could sense the abnormality gathered there. Shinning Cave. This was the place where the demons of Golden Peace Manor gathered. It was also the territory of the Plenilune Rhinoceros. Originally, there were 3 half-step golden immortal realm demon sages of the Plenilune Rhinoceros. They were Great King Bihan, Great King Baikan, and Great King Bixia. They were all famous top-tier demon sages, and each of them had mastered a half-step supreme divine ability. Although they weren't ancient demon sages, their strength was unquestionable. At this moment, there were more than 3 demon sages gathered in Shinning Cave. Countless demonic auras gathered in this ancestral land of the Plenilune Rhinoceros. The vast demonic auras covered the sky and the sun, even covering the light of the moon. Chapter 1382. In Shinning Cave, the 3 demon sages of the Plenilune Rhinoceros clan, Bai Han, Bai Xia, and Bai Chun, who were usually high and mighty, were sitting in a corner. In the middle of the huge, empty palace that occupied an area of about 5,000 to 6,000 feet, there were dozens of huge seats carved from supreme gray jade. Sitting on the seats were more than a dozen great fiendish demons. Bai Han, Bai Xia, and Bai Chen also had a place among the many great demon factions in the Aparagadania continent, but they were far inferior to the few demon sages on the main seats. These figures were of different heights. A small number of them were humanoid, but most of them were humanoid and had different facial features. However, without exception, every demon figure emitted a powerful aura that was at least comparable to a top-notch first-rate half-step golden immortal. This was especially so for the few great fiendish demons in the lead. The aura of the ancient demon sages blotted out the sky and was extremely terrifying. It was far above the remaining first-rate demon sages. Their strength could be seen clearly from the awe, fear, and fanaticism in the eyes of the surrounding demon kings. Bai Han, Bai Xia, and Bai Chun were the only three half-step golden immortals of the Plenilun clan. However, they were only the weakest among the dozen or so demon sages. On the main seats, even the many great fiendish demons were divided into factions. In the corner, the three demon sages of the Plenilun Rhinoceros clan, Bai Chun, Bai Xia, and Bai Han, were secretly uneasy. However, when they looked at the three ancient demon sages who had descended from the north, their gazes calmed down slightly. There were 5 to 6 demon sages on the north seats. The three leading demon sages were from the northern demon court of the North Continent: Demon Sage Ci Tai and Demon Sage Jiaoying. These two were demon sages who had survived from the ancient demon court era. They had even held important positions in the demon court. In the ancient demon court, apart from a few demon emperors, there were also demon masters and 365 ancient demon gods of the demon masters. In the ancient era, most of the 365 demon gods of the heavenly cycle had fallen in the war of the liches and demons. Only a few demon gods, including Demon Sage Ci Tai and Demon Sage Jiaoying, remained and retreated to the North Continent. In the primordial era, Demon Sage Ci Tai and Demon Sage Jiaoying were one of the 12 most terrifying demon gods of the primordial demon court. After hiding for so long, these two demon gods had probably entered the fourth step of the half-step golden immortal realm. They were only one step away from reaching the Tao integration stage. Even in the all heavens, such an existence was the closest to the Tao ancestor realm. This was because the other half-step golden immortals had no idea when such an existence would succeed in the Tao integration stage and become a new Tao ancestor. However, Bai Han, Bai Chun, and Bai Hua were somewhat strange. Half of the fourth-step, half-step gold immortals would not come out of seclusion casually. Most of them would sit in their cave abodes and deduce the mysteries of the great Tao, preparing to fuse with the Tao. If he were to run around like this, it would be easy for him to attract the attention of the true Tao ancestors and Buddhist ancestors. This was a taboo. Other than Demon Sage Ci Tai and Demon Sage Jiaoying, there was another ancient demon sage. He was Demon Sage Qing Xiao. He was dressed in a green robe and looked like a rich man. He smiled and sat in the third seat. Qing Xiao's lineage had never been weak among the demon race. The beauty of a nine-tailed fox was famous even among the immortals. Demon Sage Qing Xiao was also one of the ancient demon gods. Although he was not as famous as Demon Sage Ci Tai and Demon Sage Jiaoying, he was definitely not weak. It was rumored that Demon Sage Qing Xiao was the father-in-law of the last of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, Emperor Yu. He was the stabilizing force of Qing Xiao's lineage. Other than these 3 ancient demon sages, there were a few other famous demon sages. Among the 7 great sages, other than the Bull Demon King and the Monkey, the Lion Camel King, the Rock Demon King, the Sea Demon King, and the Dragon Demon King were all present. This is a misunderstanding. In Journey to the West, many people thought that the Lion Camel King, the Lion Camel King, and the Chaos Heaven Demon King were the Azure Lion of Lion Camel City and the golden-winged Great Rock Eagle. This is wrong. The 3 demon sages had all taken human form. The mountain-moving great sage was a burly man with thick hair and a thick beard. The Chaos Heaven Demon King wore a purple gold crown and looked sinister and arrogant. He was a mutated Dark Lightning Rock of the Great Rock race. The Dark Lightning Rock was also a divine beast. Although it was not as famous as the golden-winged Great Rock Eagle, it was still one of the most outstanding talents of the Great Rock race. The Dragon Demon King was a dignified middle-aged man with dragon horns. He had a gloomy expression. Other than the demon court of the North Continent, there were a few other demon sages from different clans. For example, the 9 Spirits Grand Sage, the Jade Toad Great King, and the Phoenix Feather Demon Sage. Although the 3 of them were demon sages, Many demon kings knew that they were inextricably linked to some of the 12 Tao ancestors of the Tao sect. For example, the Nine Spirits Grand Sage was an unnamed disciple of Tao ancestor Qing Hua of the Jade Pure Palace. Another example was the Jade Toad Great King. It was rumored that he was a disciple of the Moon Star, Tao ancestor Wang Han. There was also the Phoenix Feather Demon Sage. Although the Phoenix Feather race was one of the primordial 100 races, everyone knew that she was related to the Great Void Tao ancestor of the 2 Tao ancestors of the Tai Ching Palace. There were also the witch races Shangliu and Nine Phoenix, as well as the 2 ancient half-step golden immortals of the demon sect, the 7 Emotions Demon God and the 6 Desires Demon God. Shangliu and Nine Phoenix were ancient grand magi, and their strength was comparable to a top-notch half-step golden immortal. The 7 Emotions Demon God and the 6 Desires Demon God were demon generals under the first Tao ancestor of Massacre, Rahu. After Tao ancestor Rahu attained nirvana, they followed the second demon ancestor, Taoist Blood River. After Taoist Blood River reached Tao integration, he became one of the top half-step golden immortals of the demon sect. These were all half-step golden immortals of the various major factions who were about to attain their Tao. Each of them was a legendary figure of the demon sages. This time, they were all gathered at the border between the demon race and Spirit Mountain. The meaning behind this made the 3 demon sages, Bai Han, Bai Xia, and Bai Chun, feel very uneasy. At that moment, one of the ancient demons in the Seat of Honor spoke up. "Everyone, I believe that since you've come to Xianying Cave, you should know the meaning of our actions. This time, no matter what, we can't let that master and disciples walk out of Golden Peace Mansion." It was a female demon sage, the Phoenix Feather Demon Sage. Demon Sage Phoenix Feather was a beautiful woman. She did not wear any makeup, and her features were picturesque. Her hands were soft, and her skin was smooth. She was slender, and her figure was slender. Under her thin clothes, half of her breasts were exposed, and her skin was tender and snow-white. Her appearance was hazy, and for a moment, she looked like a beautiful woman in her 40s. However, if one looked carefully, she actually looked like a young woman in her early 20s, showing a unique, elegant charm. Her willowy eyebrows were slightly raised, and her plump lips were slightly curled. Her expression was neither happy nor angry. Between his brows, however, there was a chilling intent that made one's heart tremble. Hearing that, the half-step golden immortals had different expressions. The journey to the West is related to the overall situation. Over the years, ever since the ancient investiture of the gods, the Western Buddhist sect has expanded greatly. 10 Buddhas have appeared one after another. Recently, an Earth immortal Tao ancestor in the Tao sect was killed by that Khanate Buddha. Therefore, no matter what, we can't let the Buddhist sect succeed on the path to heaven. Otherwise, with the increase in luck, there might be another 1 or 2 new Buddhas. Demon Sage Phoenix Feather did not specifically mention that Buddha, but all the demon sages knew who she was. Chapter 1383. All the major factions knew the importance and significance of the path to heaven and Buddhism. In the world, there are only a few Khanate Great Taos. Every additional Tao integration golden immortal would reduce the chances of the other half-step golden immortals attaining Tao validation. Many people present were about to break through to Tao integration. They were even more unwilling to see someone complete the path to heaven at such a juncture. This was especially so for the few half-step golden immortals who had a great Tao competition with Qin Feng, Monk He, Monk Tang, Old Pig, and Old Sand. Since you want to block the path to heaven, there has to be an order. The Grand Saint of 9 Spirits said indifferently. The demon sages nodded. This was the right thing to do. After some thought, the 7 Emotions Fiend Celestial spoke. You have to pick the soft persimmon. Hit the snake where it hurts. Golden Cicada. The demon sages' expressions changed as they looked at the 7 Emotions Fiend Celestial who spoke. The 7 Emotions Fiend Celestial was also a woman. She was dressed in a rainbow-colored palace dress that was hazy and incomparably beautiful. The moment she spoke, she had grasped the biggest weakness of the sutra-seeking team. In the sutra-seeking team, Monkey, Qin Feng, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha were all half-step golden immortals. In particular, Monkey and Qin Feng were even stronger than some ancient demon sages. However, Golden Cicada was different. He had no strength to truss a chicken. Capturing Golden Cicada could be said to have captured the heart of the sutra-seeking team. Without the main character of the path to heaven to bear most of the pressure of the 5 decay of the heavens, the others would die even if they did not take action. Although Golden Cicada has become immortal due to the suppression of the path to heaven, he's probably the most difficult one to kill. At that moment, another voice sounded. Phoenix Feather Demon Sage shook her head again. Everyone, don't forget the 3 protective treasures on Golden Cicada. The moment that was said, the expressions of the demon sages turned slightly ugly. Along the way, it was not that there were no ancient demon sages and ancient half-step golden immortals. However, even though they had captured Golden Cicada more than once, they had failed to kill him. The 3 protective treasures were treasures to avoid calamities. Before Golden Cicada reincarnated, he had requested the various Buddhist ancestors to refine them for him. It was not particularly difficult for the ancient demon sages to capture Golden Cicada. What was difficult was how to kill Golden Cicada. Feng Yu, if I remember correctly, you and the Golden Cicada seemed to have a different past. Suddenly, an indifferent voice. As soon as this was said, the expressions of all the beast sages changed. Many demon monarchs looked at Demon Sage Phoenix Feather with a hint of suspicion. The Phoenix Feather Demon Saint's Phoenix eyes quietly turned and landed on the existence who spoke just now. A trace of anger flickered in her phoenix eyes. It's nothing. Little sister Feng Yu, big sister is just reminding you that if this were to fall into the ears of someone who doesn't know the details of the matter, they would probably think that little sister Feng Yu is protecting Jin Chanzi. On the stone seat, the 7 emotions demonic god sneered. Demon Sage Phoenix Feather's beautiful face turned cold, and she was about to flare up. All right, there's no need for the 2 of you to argue. We're all here for the journey to the west. The Jade Toad Demon Sage turned around and glanced at the Phoenix Feather Demon Sage indifferently. Phoenix Feather Demon Sage, don't talk too much. The Phoenix Feather Demon Saint took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in her heart. She looked coldly at the 7 emotions demon god and closed her eyes without saying another word. Many demon monarchs were secretly surprised when they saw this scene. The mysterious Jade Toad Demon Sage was actually so majestic. Many demon sages were not surprised by this. Ordinary demon monarchs did not know the origin of Jade Toad Demon Sage, but many demon sages knew very well. This Jade Toad Demon Sage came from the Moon Palace and was also one of the heavenly cycle demon gods of the ancient era. However, this demon god had a special status. He was the in-name disciple of the Moon Palace's Tao ancestor. Of course, if that was all, he would not be able to suppress Phoenix Feather Demon Sage and 7 emotions demon god. What could truly suppress the 2 demon sages was the Jade Toad Demon Sage, who had killed his way out of the extraterritorial battlefield. Only those who were in the extraterritorial battlefield would know how powerful this demon god was. Although there were ancient demon sages present, in terms of combat strength, there were probably not many who could last more than 100 rounds against this demon god. Other than the demon race's Grand Shaman 9 Phoenix, no one else was a match for this demon god. Jade Toad Demon Sage was in a hazy moonlight, making it impossible to see his figure clearly. His gaze landed on the many demon sages. Many demon sages and demon monarchs felt a chill run down their spines and involuntarily quieted down. After a moment, Jade Toad Demon Sage said indifferently, "Don't worry about the tribulations of the tribulations. You don't have to worry about the tribulation avoiding treasures on Tang Sanzang. As long as you have the ability to bring Tang Sanzang here, I can guarantee that the monk will definitely die. Jade Toad Demon Sage, do you have the means to deal with the tribulations of the tribulations?" Grand Shaman 9 Phoenix, who had been silent all this while, moved his eyes slightly. Many demon sages' expressions changed drastically as their gazes landed on Jade-Toed Demon Sage. Along the way, all the demon sages knew that it was not difficult to capture Sanzang Tang, but it was difficult to kill him. The tribulations of the tribulations contained too much power. It was condensed with countless Buddhist techniques and incantations. It also contained the boundless merit of golden cicadas, 10 reincarnations. Even the treasures in the hands of Tao ancestors could not break through it. Seeing everyone's gazes, Jade-Toed Demon Sage smiled faintly. He stretched out a hand, and a drop of pitch-black blood slowly condensed in his palm. The moment the pitch-black blood bead, which looked like the deepest abyss in the world, appeared, many demon sages' expressions changed drastically. Looking at the pitch-black blood bead, many demon sages immediately felt their primordial spirits tremble violently, as if they had encountered the most evil and terrifying existence in the world. Some of the weaker demon monarchs bled from their 7 orifices, and black smoke rose from their bodies. A terrifying black gas emerged from their bodies, and they turned into a pool of blood as they wailed miserably. Several ancient demon sages, such as Si Tai, 9 Neonate, Shang Liu, and 9 Phoenix, only took a few glances, and they felt that their primordial spirits and auspicious clouds seemed to have been greatly polluted. Their Tao hearts were covered in dust, and their luck was damaged. Horrified, they hurriedly moved to the side, not daring to look again. What is this thing? However, the strange thing was that the 2 demon gods, 7 emotions and 6 desires, were indeed horrified, but there was a hint of indescribable surprise on their faces. It was as if they had seen the most precious treasure in the world. Their eyes were filled with fear, and a fiery passion appeared. Jade-Toed Demon Sage smiled slightly and looked around at everyone. This is the blood of evil, one of the accidental harvests I obtained in the extraterritorial battlefield. What is the origin of this thing? The 6 Desires demon god could not help but ask. Jade-Toed Demon Sage nodded slightly. This thing was accidentally entangled with the resentment of countless living beings before they died in the extraterritorial battlefield. It was born after countless amounts of blood. It could be said to be a lethal poison for all living beings. I have been in the extraterritorial battlefield for hundreds of thousands of years, and I obtained 2 drops by chance. This blood of evil can be said to be the nemesis of all numinous treasures in the world. Any numinous treasure that comes into contact with a trace of it will be poisoned to death. As long as you can catch Tang Sanzang and drip a drop of the blood of evil on him, his divine soul will be destroyed, even if he has 9 lives. Chapter 1384. At this time, the main demon saint did not notice that there were 2 inconspicuous little demons in the cave communicating with their divine thoughts. Kid, what should we do? There are so many demon saints, we may not be able to protect the monk. These 2 little demons were none other than Qin Feng and the monkey, who had come to investigate after seeing the demonic aura covering the sky in the Xianian cave of Green Dragon Mountain. Both of them were proficient in transformation and had snuck in silently. Even a few ancient demon saints could not distinguish their tracks from the millions of little demons. The monkey was a little anxious, especially when he saw the Jade-Toed Demon Saint take out the blood of evil. He felt that it was unprecedentedly troublesome. Qin Feng transformed into a snake demon, and his expression did not change. The appearance of the blood of evil also made him feel a deep sense of fear. However, other than fear, there was something else in his eyes. After the Lion Camel Ridge disaster, it had been the 12th year of the journey to the west in the Golden Peace Mansion. When he passed by the small Thunder Temple, Qin Feng had already obtained the future Constellation Tribulation Sutra that he wanted. As he expected, the yellow-browed boy was indeed able to contact the East Arrival Buddha. Knowing that he was willing to exchange the Buddhist sutras of the foreign Buddhist sects, the East Arrival Buddha only thought for a moment before agreeing to his request. Qin Feng had obtained the inheritance of the foreign Buddhist sections. This was already an open secret among the Buddhas. The Buddhas had seen the secret changes of Tang Sanzang over the years. They were naturally very curious about the various cultural changes of the foreign Buddhist sects, as well as the various Buddhist doctrines. Since Qin Feng was willing to exchange, the East Arrival Buddha naturally approved of it. In fact, the East Arrival Buddha was not at a disadvantage. Ever since Qin Feng obtained a part of the Spirit Sea Buddhist mystic techniques, he had begun to search in this area. Although he did not have many profound Buddhist mystic techniques, he had many Buddhist sutras. In fact, the Buddhas were only interested in the Buddhist sutras. The Buddhist sutras were the foundation of the Buddhist doctrine and the origin of the Buddhist sects in the Spirit Sea realm. It was precisely because of this that it had an extraordinary meaning to the Buddhas. Therefore, in the past 2 years, Qin Feng's strength had also been changing. A part of the mystery of the future body was almost comprehended from the Future Constellation Tribulation Sutra. His strength had increased tremendously. His understanding of the Khanate creation Great Tao was also close to the peak. He had almost forgotten all the creation true impartation. At this moment, apart from the fact that he had yet to undergo the 4th step of the heretical Tao derivation art and was firm in his Tao path, his combat prowess was definitely not inferior to those elite ancient demon sages. After pondering for a moment, his eyes flickered with a fierce glint as he transmitted his voice to the monkey. "We can't let them attack us first. We have to strike first." "You mean?" The monkey was shocked. Even if he was extremely daring, he was also shocked by this suggestion. He took a deep breath and transmitted his voice. "You want us to charge indirectly?" "It's not us, it's me." Qin Feng looked indifferent. "You are alone?" Monkey looked at Qin Feng, almost thinking that there was something wrong with his ears. He looked at Qin Feng in disbelief. At this moment, there were not only 3 demon sages by Han, by Xia, and by Chun in Xianyin Cave. There were more than 6 ancient demon sages and even more first-rate demon sages. If they charged in and got surrounded by so many experts, wouldn't they be courting death? Qin Feng saw the look in the monkey's eyes and said indifferently, "This is the only way to stop them. If these demon sages start attacking, we will be in a passive position and Monk might be captured. The only way is to strike first." "All right, Monkey, I know the severity of the situation. Go back and bring Monk and the rest to hide first." After saying that, Qin Feng ignored the monkey's expression and directly revealed his true body. In the next moment, his true body appeared in the middle of the empty Xianyin Cave. In the void, it was as if a faint black figure walked out of the long river of time. He had a calm demeanor, and his appearance was as clear as the moon. "Who is trespassing?" The 6 ancient demon sages, Ci Tai Demon Sage, Jiao Ing Demon Sage, Qing Qiu Demon Sage, Shangliu Grand Sage, 9 Phoenix Grand Sage, and Jade Toad Demon Sage instantly discovered the black-robed young man who suddenly appeared. Qin Feng looked at the stunned demon sages in front of him and did not say anything. The aqua diffraction sword instantly appeared in his palm. Then, the sword radiance locked onto the mountain-moving Grand Sage, Chaotic Heavens Grand Sage, Ocean Cover Great Sage, King by Han, King by Xia, and King by Chun. A sword radiance as vast as water spread out and cut through space. It became bigger and bigger, like a huge Milky Way. It was huge and vast, and instantly engulfed the 6 demon sages. Die. The cold word filled the entire Xianyin Cave. The cold, killing intent in the cave seemed to condense into countless snowflakes. The demonic sages and demonic kings watched in horror as the gigantic sword river engulfed the 6 demonic sages in an instant, as if it was the birth and death of the greater thousand worlds. With just one sword, 6 demon sages fell at the same time. This scene made the souls of many demon kings tremble. What a great name! Lord of the Boundless Sea Buddha. At this moment, the remaining demon sages recognized Qin Feng's identity amidst their shock. What a terrifying sword radiance! With one sword, heaven and earth will be born, and all living things will be destroyed. The plundering and refining of creation has been brought to the extreme. Even the life of the boundless world would be plundered by this sword and quickly turned into dust. With such power, even an ordinary fourth-step, half-step golden immortal would find it difficult to resist this sword. Therefore, he is indeed not afraid of this group of demon sages. I, old son, have worried too much. The monkey's eyes flashed with surprise. After a while, he took advantage of the chaos and quietly left Xiannian Cave. With one sword, he killed Bai Han, Bai Xia, Bai Chun, Hun Tian, mountain-moving grand sage, and Shi Toa. Qin Feng's gaze then fell on the remaining 4 first-rate demon sages and demon gods: Feng Yu, Jiu Ling, Qi Qing, and Lu Yu. Fellow Taoists, please fall as well. The blazing white sword radiance in his hand changed and condensed into one. With a flash of his figure, he had already disappeared from where he was. Oh no! The immortal souls of the Phoenix Feathered Demon Sage, Jiu Ling, 7 Emotions Demon God, and 6 Desires Demon God trembled violently. They only felt a terrifying sense of danger coming from the depths of void space. Their expressions changed, and they instinctively unleashed various techniques. At the same time, a faint black figure seemed to appear from a trace in the river of time. The 6 immemorial demon sages, Ci Tai Demon Sage, Jiu Ing Demon Sage, Qing Qiu Demon Sage, Shangliu Grand Sage, 9 Phoenix Grand Sage, and Jade Toad Demon Sage instinctively wanted to attack. However, in the next moment, their expressions froze and their eyes flashed with shock. Time in Xiannian Cave seemed to flow backwards and return to the moment when the mountain-moving Grand Sage, Chaotic Heavens Grand Sage, Ocean-Cover Grand Sage, King Bai Han, King Bai Xia, and King Bai Chun were killed. Everyone's body involuntarily returned to the moment when they sat down. A blazing white sword radiance appeared again. At the same time, the 6 of them activated their immortal souls and destroyed the frozen projection of the river of time. The intertwining sword radiance engulfed the Phoenix Feather Demon Sage, Jiu Ling, 7 Emotions Demon God, and 6 Desires Demon God, plundering and refining intertwined in the sword radiance. Boom! The Tao bodies of the Phoenix Feather Demon Sage, Jiu Ling, 7 Emotions Demon God, and 6 Desires Demon God were shattered by the sword radiance. They were like butterflies that were sliced apart by the sword radiance. Chapter 1385. Bang, bang, bang. For beams of divine light shot into the sky. 4 talismans carried 4 immortal souls and flew out of Xiannian Cave. The ancestral talisman. There was a strange look in Qin Feng's eyes. He felt that the talisman contained a trace of the pure aura of the Tao ancestor. He was eager to give it a try, but he suppressed the impulse to provoke the Tao ancestor for a moment. Ci Tai Demon Sage, Jiu Ing Demon Sage, Qing Qiu Demon Sage, Shangliu Grand Sage, with Jiu Feng, and the Jade Toad Demon Sage all gasped. In an instant, 10 demon sages were killed. This terrifying sword radiance overturned their understanding. The power of the great way of time. The Jade Toad Demon Sage was shocked. Even in the extraterritorial battlefield, such a terrifying half-step golden immortal who understood the changes of time and could travel through time was rare. However, without exception, such an existence must be one of the most powerful half-step golden immortals. Next, it's you. Qin Feng's cold gaze swept across the 6 demon sages, Ci Tai Demon Sage. Previously, when he killed the Bull Demon King, he had completely offended this demon sage. Ci Tai Demon Sage understood the great way of Gung Metal of the acquired great way. Gung Metal Black Saber. Ci Tai Demon Sage saw Qin Feng's extremely cold and murderous eyes, and his ferocity was aroused. He simply took out his natal spiritual treasure. A huge saber radiance that could tear the heavens and earth appeared. Great Freedom Gung Metal White Tiger God-Devouring Slash. This was a supreme abhijna of the great way of Gung Metal. Even heavenly divine weapons would be crushed and turned into powder when they met this saber radiance. However, as the sword radiance flashed like a river, The Gungjin mystic saber and Ci Tai demon saint's body shattered. His primordial spirit struggled for a moment in the sword radiance's power of creation before it was reduced to ashes. In the void, a figure appeared from the light. Qin Feng's eyes were cold. Killing Ci Tai demon sage was like killing an ant to him. However, at this moment, the 9 infants demonic sage, the Green Hill demonic sage, the Shangliu grand sage, and the 9 phoenix grand sorcerer's long-planned attack arrived. The 9-headed fierce beast demonic sage, the 9-headed fierce beast demonic sage, the 9-headed fierce beast demonic sage, the Shangliu grand sage, and the 9-headed phoenix demonic sage had been waiting for an opportunity. When the Ci Tai demonic sage was in danger, the 4 demonic sages held back and did not attack. However, after the Ci Tai demonic sage was killed and Qin Feng was exhausted, the 4 of them saw an opportunity. Like an earth-shattering explosion, 4 supreme-level great divine abilities instantly appeared above Qin Feng's head. The 9-headed fierce beast demon saint blasted out 2 divine lights of water and fire. It was a pair of scissors of water and fire that seemed to be able to cut through everything. It was an ancient half-step golden immortal who cultivated the Tao of innate luck interception. Demon sage Qing Xiao had unleashed blazing white beams that seemed to contain the evolution, wisdom, and even survival of billions of demons over countless years. It was like a poem or a painting. Under the white light, Qin Feng's essence, soul, seemed to be immersed in it, unable to extricate itself. He was a half-step golden immortal in the 4th step of the postnatal wisdom great Tao. The Shangliu grand shaman spat out a divine light that was pitch black and extremely poisonous. It was as if everything in the world could be poisoned to death by the black light. The 9 origins black spirit divine light. This was the natal divine light of the Shangliu grand shaman and was also a supreme divine ability. Like Monk Sha, he was also a half-step golden immortal in the postnatal great Tao of poison. On the other side, the 9-headed phoenix was like the queen of heaven and earth. Countless golden glazed lights around her were crystal clear and flowing with brilliant colors. It was as if billions of gods were chanting and worshipping her. The phoenix cries around her were clear and clear. 9 huge golden phoenixes flew out from her body and turned into a phoenix hairpin that pierced through the air towards Qin Feng. It was as if she had cut through the galaxy, causing the operation of the great Tao to slow down slightly. The power contained in it was far more threatening to Qin Feng than the other 3 half-step golden immortals. The great Tao of the Phoenix Empress. She cultivated a rare postnatal great Tao. It belonged to the Saint Virtue great Tao of the Khanate 5 Virtues great Tao. It was rumored that the 9-headed phoenix was once the empress of the northern Black Emperor Zhuanxu of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. No one would have thought that she had taken the path of becoming the empress. 4 earth-shattering forces appeared above Qin Feng's head like a torrent. It was as if the world could be shattered by the 4 divine lights. However, at this moment, a green lotus appeared above Qin Feng's head. It had 12 grades and seemed to be rooted in the chaos. The lotus leaves were green and glistening, blooming from the chaos. The chaotic gas swayed and rotated slowly. The 4 divine lights bombarded it, and the 12th grade green lotus shook violently. Pieces of green petals appeared in the void and shattered, but quickly regenerated. The 12th grade green lotus of creation. The 9-headed fierce beast demon sage. The 9-headed fierce beast demon sage. The Shangliu grand sage and the 9-headed phoenix grand shaman were shocked. Everyone knew that the 5 12th grade Khanate lotus flowers were known for their unparalleled defense. The 12th grade lotus flowers above their heads were indestructible. It's my turn. Qin Feng's face was slightly pale. The combined attack of the 4 ancient demonic sages was indeed powerful. Although the 12th grade green lotus of creation blocked it, it consumed a lot of primordial spirit mana. In an instant, as his primordial spirit absorbed the original power of the world from the Master God space, he recovered instantly. The blazing white sword radiance in his hand seemed to overshadow the sun in the eyes of the 9 infants demonic sage, the green-hilled demonic sage, the Shangliu grand sage, and the 9 phoenix demonic sage. The sword radiance appeared again like the Milky Way. It was vast and huge. The 4 ancient Khanate half-step golden immortals seemed to see the Khanate creation great Tao descend with the sword. The jade-toed demonic sage, who was the only one who did not attack, saw this scene, and his expression changed. It's a sword technique that combines the true meaning of the Khanate creation great Tao. The sword descends like Tao. The vast sword radiance was like a huge wave that hit the 9 infants demonic sage, the green-hilled demonic sage, the Shangliu grand sage, and the 9 phoenix demonic sage, who could not react in time. Boom! In the explosion, the bodies of the 4 ancient demonic sages and the ancient grand sorcerer's Taoist bodies were shattered. Flowing light burst out, and each of them carried a supreme treasure and rushed out of the sword radiance. The sword radiance seemed to contain a terrifying technique that could refine the greater world in an instant. After the natal spiritual treasures of the 4 ancient demonic sages rushed out, they became dim and lightless, as if they would shatter at any time. The spiritual light dimmed, and the primordial spirit radiance of the 4 natal spiritual treasures shot into the sky and disappeared in the Xianyan cave. Seeing the primordial spirits of the 9 infants demonic sage, the green-hilled demonic sage, the Shangliu grand sage, and the 9 phoenix demonic sage escape, Qin Feng felt a little regretful. His mediating creation Abhijna had not reached the great circle of perfection. Otherwise, with one sword, the heavens and earth returned to one, and the 4 ancient demonic sages would not be alive. Qin Feng did not stop them. He looked a little out of breath. After killing 14 demonic sages in a row, his mana was endless and he could bear it. However, the burden on his primordial spirit was not small. He took a deep breath, and the vast world origin force swept in from the Master God space and entered the dim primordial spirit Sarira. The primordial spirit, Sarira, shone brightly. He turned around, and his gaze fell on the last demonic sage. Chapter 1386. A trace of formless killing intent remained on the waterscape diffraction sword. Qin Feng raised his eyes and looked at the jade-toed demon sage. Although they were both 4th-step demon sages, the jade-toed demon sage's strength was far above 9 phoenixes. Although his creation manipulation grand theurgy had absorbed part of the creation divine law of myriad worlds, its power and potential made it one of the best among most of the supreme theurgies in this world. However, it had yet to reach perfection. At this moment, he had killed 14 demon sages in a row, so he had lost a portion of his strength. However, he did not show any signs of weakness. Instead, his battle intent and killing intent were close to the peak. All the changes were condensed into one. His divine sense locked onto the jade-toed demon sage, waiting for him to move. Then, he would receive a shocking strike. The jade-toed demon sage's eyes flickered with a cold brilliance. He squinted his cold eyes, and a power like an ancient glacier was hidden in his body, ready to erupt at any time. He glanced at Qin Feng. Just now, Qin Feng had killed 14 demon saints in 3 seconds, especially when he was attacked by 4 ancient demon saints at the end. Although he managed to block it, he was certain that Nan Wushi, the boundless sea emperor, Tathagata, was also affected. After pondering for a moment, a strange look flashed across his cold and indifferent face. After a few moments, he finally decided to give up. He was sure that even if he could severely injure the half-step golden immortal in front of him, he would have to pay a price. It would be beyond his power to kill Tang Sanzang under the protection of Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha. If he could not kill Tang Sanzang, he would have offended 4 half-step golden immortals with great potential. Moreover, the jade-toed demon sage could vaguely feel that he might not be able to defeat the emperor of the boundless sea, Tathagata. Forget it. The Moon sect has always surpassed the Profound sect. Although we are from the Profound sect, we are not on the same side, as the Tao ancestors of the Palace of Three Purities. There is no need to fight to the death with the Buddhists for them. With that thought, he took a deep look at the black-clothed Qing Lian several hundred feet away. His body suddenly turned into a beam of bright moonlight and disappeared. Upon seeing the jade-toed demon sage retreat, Qin Feng heaved a sigh of relief. The faint warning in the depths of his essence, soul, dissipated. Qin Feng turned around and glanced at the empty Xianying cave where everyone had run away. His figure flashed, and immediately after, he returned to his original spot. After this battle, the Plenilune Spirit Rhinoceros clan would probably completely decline among the many demon clans in the Northern Demon Court. Above the 33 heavens, in the depths of the heavenly court, were countless immortal kingdoms. Occasionally, beams of immortal light would shine out from them. White clouds swirled around, and the auspicious signs of spirit beasts emerged one after another. In the center of the immortal court, even the jade, toad, demon, sage retreated. The group of immortals glanced at each other. It seems that someone has finally completed the journey to the west to heaven. Yes, the rise of Buddhism is imminent. I can't hold on any longer. I wonder which of the 4 half-step golden immortals will attain the Tao in this tribulation. The immortals had different expressions, and many of them had strange looks. On the central throne, the Queen Mother and the Jade Emperor looked at each other with calm expressions. The path to heaven was about to be completed. However, Tao integration was not something that could be achieved by luck and merit alone. This half-step golden immortal will probably have to reincarnate again. The Queen Mother and the Jade Emperor were not the only ones with such thoughts. In fact, be it the Tao sects, Buddhists, demons, witches, fiend sects, or even the experts of other factions, none of them thought highly of Nan Wuxi, the boundless ocean emperor, Tathagata. Everyone knew that someone had already rushed to Tao integration for the Khanate creation great Tao. Before that Khanate creation Tao ancestor died or transcended beyond the 18th level, it was definitely impossible for anyone to reach Tao integration. Nan Wuxi, the boundless ocean emperor, Tathagata, had already reached the end of his path. There were only 2 paths in front of him. One was to wait for the Khanate creation Tao ancestor to die or transcend. However, whether it was death or transcendence, the chances were slim. It was unlikely that she had perished. Tao ancestor empress, while was a Tao ancestor of the demon race, she was also a Tao ancestor of the celestial sect of wonders. She was also a personal disciple of Tao ancestor Hongjun. Rumor had it that Tao ancestor Hongjun was an 18th-stage Tao ancestor or a 19th-stage eternal Tao ancestor. However, no one could ignore this Tao ancestor. The other was transcendence. The path of transcendence was simply too difficult. Although Tao ancestor empress while had attained her Tao in ancient times, a portion of half-step golden immortals knew that she had only just stepped into the 17th step, fusing with an opposing great Tao. He was still far from reaching the 18th level. In other words, the path of Lord Tathagata of the boundless sea was basically cut off. The only ones who could attain Tao in this tribulation were Golden Cicada, who cultivated the merit Tao of the innate 5 virtues Tao, and Sun Wukong, who cultivated the innate force Tao. There is only one path for Nan Wuxi, the boundless ocean emperor Tathagata, and that was to reincarnate and forget everything about the innate Tao of creation and choose another Tao. Qin Feng returned to the temple and sensed the gazes of the various worlds that were judging him, regretful, fearful, and cold, gradually receding. He stood still and raised his head to look at the sky. He could roughly guess some of the thoughts in those gazes. Perhaps those Tao ancestors were certain that he was not a threat for the time being, so they shifted their gazes. Most of their gazes landed on Tang Sanzang and the monkey. There was no path for the innate Tao of creation. He could not fuse with the Tao. There was no path ahead of him. Qin Feng's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. There was a slight sneer in his eyes. That might not be the case. Xianying Cave was filled with demon kings and demon saints. Qin Feng had defeated them all. From then on, Jinping Prefecture was unobstructed. The master and disciples had a good lantern festival here. The next day, they set off again, passing through Tintu and Shiwei. There were some obstacles along the way. Half a year later, they arrived at Yuzhen Temple at the foot of Mount Numinous. They were entertained by the golden apex immortal of Yuzhen Temple, bathing and fasting. On the second day, they left Yuzhen Temple and bade farewell to the golden apex immortal. After less than 4 miles, everyone heard the roar of water. They saw a flying wave coming from upstream. It was as wide as a white dragon. The water was vigorous and the river was vast. It was even better than the quicksand river and the heavenly stream that the master and disciples had seen before. The river was vast, and there was no one in sight. White fog covered the sky and the earth, and the sun could not be seen. The master and disciples were like a grain of sand in the vast ocean on the shore. The monkey's fiery golden eyes flickered as he looked at the river. He could clearly feel a grand and boundless atmosphere in the river. Clouds soaring crossing. After the few of them walked along the river for a while, they saw a single plank bridge on the shore. The single plank bridge was deep in the fog and stretched across the other shore. It was bottomless. Seeing the cloud soaring crossing, the master and disciples trembled. A hint of joy appeared on their faces. After reaching the cloud soaring crossing, they had reached the end of the journey to the west. The sweetness came after the bitterness. For a moment, even though the monk was suppressed by the 5 decay of the celestial being, unable to move his primordial spirit, relic, and Buddhist light, he could feel that the 5 decay of the celestial being that was as heavy as mountains and seas, as if the boundless heavens were pressing down on him, loosening. A faint Buddhist light appeared around him. At this moment, the monkey, old pig, and old Shah's expressions suddenly froze as they sensed a strange gaze. They looked to the side and saw Qin Feng close his eyes. There was an earth-shattering and mysterious aura being emitted from his body. He has actually seen through the 4th step, the outer Tao derivation method. The 3 of them widened their eyes. Chapter 1387. He's reached the 4th step of the outer Tao deduction method before I, old son. The monkey was a little dazed. He was a connate, divine spirit born with the great Tao of heaven and earth. He was also one of the top geniuses in the world, and his progress had been rapid, far surpassing his peers. Although he'd been schemed against by the Bull Demon King and the other monster saints and been sealed in the secret realm of 5 Elements Mountain for 500 years, his cultivation had improved instead of regressing after 500 years of meditation. He'd long since reached the 3rd step of half-step golden immortal realm. Over the years, he'd resolved his karma with the Bull Demon King and the others and broken free of his shackles. His connate combat arts had almost reached perfection, and he only needed to fuse his Tao heart and nascent spirit to reach the 4th step. Who would have thought that Qin Feng would be 1 step ahead of him? Nan Wushuang, Lord of the Boundless Sea, has taken that step so quickly. At this moment, the 2 Tao ancestors in Jade Pure Palace wore different expressions. Master Guangchengzi and Immortal Wang of the South Pole exchanged a look and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Qin Feng hadn't been a half-step golden immortal when he'd appeared, but a Tao Lord who'd just taken the 1st step. He'd walked a path that ordinary half-step golden immortals would have taken tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years to traverse in just a dozen years. His speed was simply astounding. There had to be something fishy going on with such incredible speed. It wasn't just the 2 Tao ancestors in Jade Pure Palace. Even Tao ancestor Great Void of Grand Purity Palace on Mount Shouyang was taken aback. He's the first to reach the 4th step. Is it the reincarnation of a Tao ancestor? Or does he possess a connate spirit treasure? Tao ancestor Great Void didn't think too much about the latter after a brief consideration. Connate spirit treasures nurtured connate Tao embryos and contained the boundless mysteries of the connate Great Tao. However, connate spirit treasures were limited. Connate spirit treasures had indeed appeared in the connate Tao of creation, but the cauldron of creation and the 12th lotus had been completely shattered. Moreover, a new Khanate creation spirit treasure had been born, and it was in the hands of the current Khanate creation Tao ancestor, Empress Hua. It was the stately painting. It was Empress Hua's supreme Tao affirmation treasure. With it suppressing the Khanate creation Tao, no other Khanate spirit treasures could advance to Khanate spirit treasures. Above the 33 heavens, within the beautiful celestial world, Tao ancestor Empress Hua suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. Boundless divine light flowed as she gazed down into the lower realms. Her gaze fell upon Nan Wushi, the emperor of the boundless seas, who had his eyes closed by the Lingyun Ferry at the foot of the spirit mountain of the western lands. He actually broke through at this time. Emperor Hua looked surprised. To everyone's surprise, it was this Tathagata from the Buddhist sect who had reached the 4th step before the monkey and the golden cicada. Consecutive breakthroughs in such a short period of time made people ponder deeply. It's either ancestor Qinquan or Taoist green lotus. A profound look flashed across Emperor Hua's eyes. But then, he stopped paying attention to it. No matter which Tao ancestor's remnant primordial spirit returned, the innate Tao of creation and creation had already been merged with her, and no Tao ancestor could shake her position. If they were courting death, she wouldn't mind using more means. What a surprise! Above West Earth Spirit Mountain, there were many Buddha kingdoms standing in great numbers. The Buddha kingdoms were vast and boundless. In the core of the central whirling world, the gazes of the Buddhas were also slightly surprised. Many Buddhas had different expressions. Some were smiling, some were surprised, and some were smiling. In the immeasurable Great Light world, Great Light Buddha sat under a tree and sensed the changes beside Ling Yundu. He sighed softly. What a pity! In the Pure Land of Bliss world, 2 Buddhas who were meditating and verifying the Buddhist Dharma were startled by the exchange of Buddhist Dharma. They opened their eyes, and Sanskrit chants rang out. Boundless Buddhist light shone brightly, illuminating the Buddha kingdoms and Pure Land. The 2 Buddhas were surprised. After a moment, Buddha Nirvana sighed. Innate creation. Beside him, Karma Buddha Lord laughed. In the Pure Land of the East, colored glaze great world, Buddha Lord, who was explaining the great Tao to the endless Buddhas of the Pure Land of Bliss world, paused for a moment. 7-color divine light flickered behind him. There was no surprise or regret in his eyes. It wasn't surprising that Qin Feng had reached the 4th step. With the power of a supreme treasure like the Master God Space, his foundation was entrenched in several huge worlds, and he was constantly comprehending the mysteries of the Great Tao. Although those worlds couldn't compare to the Great Tao here, they were still extremely perfect. If the Great Tao was like a suspended river, the primordial world would be nourished by a large branch, while the other worlds with weaker foundations would be considered small rivers and streams. Although the difference was huge, their foundations were mostly similar. This was the boundless foundation that Qin Feng had accumulated. Not to mention monkeys, even some half-step golden immortals and personal disciples of Tao ancestors from ancient times couldn't compare to such a foundation. Qin Feng was improving almost every moment. Not only did his understanding of the innate great Tao of creation far exceed that of the ancient half-step golden immortals, but the breadth and depth of his understanding even exceeded the imagination of the experts of various worlds. It could be said that he had comprehended the God laws of myriad worlds. Such a foundation was probably unprecedented in this world. At this moment, Qin Feng's eyes were closed. His primordial spirit seemed to have jumped out from the clamor of mortals and entered the boundless Milky Way. It seemed to have entered the deepest part of the void universe. The boundless gray fog was hazy. It was the fog of the great Tao. This place seemed to be isolated from the outside world. He could no longer sense any existence, including his natal spiritual treasure and the Master God Space. Qin Feng's expression did not change. He seemed to have been mentally prepared. His Tao heart was calm and flawless, cold and resolute, indifferent and self-restrained. He looked at the shining stars and the boundless gray fog around him. With just a glance, Qin Feng, whose primordial spirit had changed, seemed to see countless innate creation great Tao imprints appear in the depths of his primordial spirit and suddenly attacked. The calm expression of his primordial spirit also became blurred and hazy. He could not help but be immersed in the depths of the mystery of the great Tao. The fourth step of the half-step golden immortal realm was the outer Tao derivation technique, which was left behind by the various Tao validation insights of the void universe. They were the Tao validation insights left behind by the great figures who had successfully taken this step or reached this step in the past. When a half-step golden immortal was close to Tao integration, the void universe would transform these Tao derivation methods into itself and drag him to the fourth step. The outer Tao derivation method, encountered by the first half-step golden immortal who was close to Tao integration, should be the specious false great Tao principles that the void universe had created. Once one fell into these false principles, one would be completely lost and even be Tao assimilated, failing Tao integration. There were many innate creation half-step golden immortals born in the untainted land, including the current innate creation Tao ancestor, Emperor Hua. At least 3 innate creation Tao ancestors were born. The outer Tao derivation method that Qin Feng encountered was not only the imprints of the half-step golden immortals who cultivated the creation Tao in the primordial, antiquity, and Middle Ages, but also the interference of 2 former innate creation Tao ancestors and 1 current innate creation Tao ancestor. However, Qin Feng was not an ordinary half-step golden immortal who cultivated the innate creation Tao. He knew the innate creation Tao of the myriad worlds. He had the innate creation Tao of several worlds in his heart. That unique aura had been repeatedly verified in his heart. Seeking the truth. Chapter 1388. Although these illusory, fake and specious fake great Taos seemed real, they were actually as clear as fire in his eyes. His essence spirit and Tao heart fused together like a bright moon, parting the fog. Qin Feng's heart was clear, and the brilliance of his essence spirit was clear inside and outside. All the fog had been dispersed, and his Tao path appeared in the fog. He chanted softly, "Cultivate the Tao, cultivate the heart, repair the clear heart, do the Tao with one's heart, and do one's heart with sincerity. Without confidence, it is difficult to enter the Tao. Without sincerity, it is difficult to achieve the Tao. Without a firm heart, it is difficult to achieve the Tao. Without a willing heart, it is difficult to achieve the Tao. If one's Tao is true, one's destiny is true, one's tribulation is true, and one's wish is true. Once one enters the Buddhist sect, one's 9 ancestors will be superior, one's 10 halls will be subservient, and one will never fall into the cycle of reincarnation." As the word reincarnation fell, Qin Feng took a step forward. In the 100 Orifices divine court, the scene of the birth and death of billions of living beings bloomed. A pure white, 12th grade spirit sea creation auspicious cloud flew out. White brilliance circulated, and billions of rays of light bloomed, as if there was boundless creation intent contained within. At this moment, the immortals and gods in the heavens could clearly see the majestic power and mystery. The 4th step, external development of a Tao, succeeded. With this step, the aura of the half-step golden immortal on Qin Feng's body seemed to have turned invisible like a breeze. It was like the invisible great Tao that was everywhere, and also like a breeze. I actually can't sense his existence and aura. Beside him, the monkey, old pig, and old sand looked over and could not help but swallow. In the spiritual will of the 3 half-step golden immortals, they realized that they could not sense any trace of Qin Feng at all. The monkey's expression was filled with shock and disbelief. Previously, half a year ago, the 2 ancient demon saints in Xinian Cave, Grand Magus 9 Phoenix and Demon Saint Jade Toad, had reached the 4th step. Even though their auras were weak, they were close to the Tao integration realm. His spiritual will could still capture traces of faintly discernible aura. However, at this moment, even though Qin Feng was right in front of his eyes, his spiritual will was clearly empty. There was only the sound of the mountain rocks being washed away by the wind and the river water. At the same time, Qin Feng closed his eyes. The great Tao of the heavens and realms seemed to tremble slightly as his primordial spirit revolved. These silent ripples stretched across the heavens. A grand scene of heaven and earth opening up, all living things growing, yin and yang being born, and the 8 trigrams evolving, turned into a vast heavenly sound that was born in the depths of all living beings in the universe. This heavenly voice was dreamlike and illusory, and it seemed to be displaying the boundless profundities of creation. Ordinary living beings who heard it for a moment would completely forget it in the next moment, and it was as if there was no trace of it at all. However, some of the primordial spirits of the great divinities were left with traces of hindrances, and they seemed to sense something. Some cultivators with good perception, perseverance, and luck even entered a state of epiphany and comprehended part of the mysteries of creation. How terrifying! He's just broken through to the 4th step, but I'm afraid he's already found the path to Tao integration. In the Spirit Mountain, at this moment, many ancient Buddhas sighed, envious, and had complicated expressions. In the heavenly court, the Jade Emperor and the Queen Mother looked at each other. The Jade Emperor's majestic eyes were almost shaking violently. The Jade Emperor was once a cultivator of the 4th step of the Khanate Saint Virtue Great Tao, and he had a deep influence on that realm. Ordinary half-step golden immortals would need 10,000 years to find the path to Tao integration and have the qualifications to break through to Tao integration even if they entered the 4th step from the 3rd step to the 4th step. At this moment, in the primordial world, outside the primordial world, including the billions of great worlds and countless small worlds in the stars and the void, some of the powerful figures seemed to have sensed something. In the heavens, there was another half-step golden immortal who had reached the peak of the 4th step. Qin Feng's expression did not change. At this moment, he felt that his Khanate Tao seed of creation had been perfected, and his primordial spirit seemed to be touching and fusing with the Khanate creation great Tao. The 12th grade spirit sea creation cloud in his body seemed to have made up for the last shortcoming. It was perfect and operated with the great Tao. However, when he was operating the cloud and comprehending the mysteries of the great Tao, he could clearly feel a strong repulsion from the depths of the Khanate creation great Tao. It seemed that the Khanate creation great Tao had its own consciousness, and there was a boundless primordial, vast, and majestic aura entrenched in it like an overlord. That huge aura faintly transformed into the great thousand universe, boundless mountains and rivers, and had incredible power. When his primordial spirit touched the creation great Tao slightly, it seemed to have touched the boundless overlord entrenched in the depths of the creation great Tao. An unparalleled aura surged and instantly blasted towards his primordial spirit. Qin Feng felt that his primordial spirit was about to be pierced and shattered into powder. A terrifying sense of danger came from the depths of his heart. The power of the Master God space surged and forcibly grabbed his primordial spirit and abruptly withdrew from this mysterious realm. With the abrupt withdrawal, the terrifying warning in the depths of Qin Feng's primordial spirit receded like a tide. Tao Ancestor Empress Hua. Qin Feng opened his eyes. His forehead was almost soaked in sweat, and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. If it wasn't for the power of the Master God space, his primordial spirit would have been instantly destroyed by Tao Ancestor Empress Hua through the creation great Tao. Outside the 33 heavens, in the Hua Emperor heaven, beautiful mountains and rivers manifested. Countless spiritual roots and spiritual beasts were living in peace and tranquility. At this moment, the Hua Emperor heaven suddenly shook. Thousands of thunderbolts rumbled. countless spiritual beasts and spiritual roots transformed into jade rabbits, and beasts were terrified as they looked at the palace of Empress Wa in the center. At this moment, the Tao ancestors and Buddhist ancestors also felt Empress Wa's murderous intent. They all looked outside the 33 heavens with different expressions. Rumble. Above their heads, the high cloud fairy was suddenly surrounded by dark clouds. Thunder rumbled, and the rolling sound of thunder spread for tens of thousands of miles. It was abnormally terrifying and majestic. A pair of ruthless, cold, and terrifying eyes appeared from the thunderclouds and fell on Qin Feng, who was above the high cloud fairy. Qin Feng's body was cold. He raised his head and felt an incomparably terrifying pressure from the unseen world descending on him with an undisguised murderous intent. Puff! Under this murderous intent, his body felt like it was hit by a heavy hammer. His primordial spirit felt like it was hit by a heavy hammer. His face turned as pale as paper, and a trace of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. He was expressionless as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. The battle of the Great Tao would not end until one of them died. That was the murderous intent of the creation Great Tao. If Qin Feng hadn't joined the Buddhist sect and was at the foot of the Buddhist sect's numinous mountain, there was no doubt that Tao ancestor Empress Wa would have taken action and wiped him out from the wilderness. However, it was certain that from today onwards, Qin Feng would definitely be on Tao ancestor Empress Wa's must-kill list. At this moment, the half-step Golden Immortals, and Tao ancestors were watching this scene coldly. Some were sneering, some were indifferent, and some were unfathomable. Chapter 1389. In the trillions of worlds, the gazes of many great beings landed on Qin Feng with a hint of sympathy. Not only was there no hope for him to attain Tao, but he was also targeted by such a terrifying Khanate Tao ancestor. From now on, Qin Feng would not be able to appear outside the territory of the Buddhist sects. Thunder rumbled above his head. At this moment, a series of heavenly chants sounded from the depths of the mystical mountain. It was as though billions of Buddhas were chanting scriptures, and the thunderous voice of the great lion reverberated through the worlds. Sensing the extremely dense Buddhist light in the depths of the mystical mountain, thunderclouds surged. The pair of eyes in the depths glanced at the depths of the mystical mountain, and a hint of fear appeared. After a moment, they glanced at Qin Feng, and the thunderclouds gradually dissipated. The gazes of many great beings were also gradually retracted. This was the territory of the Buddhist sects after all. Now that the Buddhist sects were so powerful, even Tao ancestor Emperor Wa could not act rashly. Lad, at the side, Monkey saw this and was about to speak. Monkey, there's no need to say anything. I'm fine. Qin Feng shook his head with a cold expression. Seeing this, Monkey, Old Pig, and Old Sand sighed secretly. The few of them were sincerely regretful and worried for Qin Feng. On the road to the west, everyone ate and slept in the open, going through life and death together. This friendship was even deeper than that of a group of fellow disciples who grew up together. They truly hoped that Qin Feng could attain Tao integration stage. However, fate made a fool of them. The Khanate Tao of creation had an owner, and Emperor Wa's reaction was so intense. Not only was there no hope for him to attain Tao in the future, there was also a great calamity. Everyone, is there anyone who wants to take a boat? At this moment, a faint voice sounded from the depths of the clouds. The faint voice was strange. It was neither metal nor wood. It was dry and gloomy like the endless withered trees. It was hoarse and unpleasant to the ears. It was also like the green trees, full of vitality and gentle like jade. The few of them turned back. Unknowingly, a boat had appeared in the rolling waves of the Lingyun crossing. On the lone boat, there was a man wearing a straw rain hat. The Monkey, Old Pig, and Old Sand were the first to react. They looked at the boat and realized that it was a bottomless boat. The Monkey's eyes of fire and gold had long since recognized that this was a Buddha clone of the first of the 10 Buddhist ancestors, the myriad Buddha ancestor, the receiving Buddha. He was also known as the Namo Treasured Light King Buddha. Qin Feng, Old Pig, and Lao Sha could see it clearly. Furthermore, Nanwa Luminous Vajra Buddha didn't hide his Buddhist light at all. No one said anything. They looked at each other and smiled. Old Pig and Old Sha helped Tyrant forward. Tyrant took a look and was shocked. How are you going to ferry people with this bottomless broken boat? Monkey, Old Pig, and Old Sand glanced at Tyrant. As they approached Mount Numinous and were about to complete the path to heaven, the final backlash of the 5 decay of the celestial being came. Tyrant's memories were also blinded. He had completely lost the memories of the golden cicada's 10 lifetimes. He actually forgot about the spiritual mountain. The Nanwu treasured Vajra light potentate Buddha laughed and said, "My primordial judgment is famous. Fortunately, I didn't change it. It's stable even with waves and winds. It's peaceful without beginning or end. It's untainted by the world and can return to one. It can pass through all tribulations peacefully. A bottomless boat can't cross the sea. It has been ferrying people since ancient times." Monkey went forward and clasped his palms in gratitude. "Thank you, sacred teacher, for receiving us." With that, he looked at Tyrant. "Tyrant, get on the boat." Although his boat is bottomless, it's stable. Even if there's a storm, it won't capsize. Tyrant was still hesitating. Monkey chuckled and rolled up his sleeves. He pressed on Tyrant's shoulders and pushed him up. Tyrant couldn't keep his footing and fell into the hole in the boat. In the next moment, he was pulled up by the boatman and stood on the boat. Although Tyrant was saved, he was still shocked. He shook his clothes and kicked his shoes while scolding Monkey for being heartless. On the other side, Monkey was grinning. He, Qin Feng, Old Pig, and Old Sha led the horses and carried the poles. They also boarded the boat and stood on it. What was strange was that the boat looked small and tattered. Water was pouring in from the bottom. However, with so many people standing on it, not only was it able to hold more than enough, it was also extremely stable. Seeing that everyone had boarded the boat, the Nanwa treasured Vajra light potentate Buddha gently pushed the oars and sailed into the heart of the river. A corpse floated down from the bow of the boat. Following that, numerous corpses floated down. Qin Feng stood among them and saw the corpses of Tyrant, Monkey, Old Pig, Lao Sha, as well as his own and the white dragon horse. When Qin Feng saw this, his eyes moved slightly. As the corpse floated down, his body seemed to become abnormally light. Even his Deshang-born Dao aptitude seemed to have received a little baptism. It was a small improvement. There's something mysterious about this river. It seems to contain a part of the mysteries of time and merit. Just now, he clearly saw that a part of his Dao aptitude that belonged to the past seemed to have been completely cleansed by a gush of water. At this moment, above their heads, where no one could see, the color of heaven and earth suddenly changed. Endless divine light and auspicious qi filled the sky. Above the magnificent scenery of Spirited Mountain, golden lotuses bloomed and flowers fell from the sky. A surge of Xianhuang merit seemed to have condensed from the top of Spirited Mountain. Qin Feng, Monkey, Old Pig, Lao Sha, and the rest looked over. They saw that their journey to the west was like a path paved with Xianhuang. It stretched from a Nanjian Department continent to the Aparagadania continent and went straight into the depths of Spirited Mountain. There seemed to be endless Xianhuang merit and fate surging from the Eldritch world. Outside of the Eldritch world, in the trillions of worlds and countless small worlds, strands of fate gathered and entered the journey to the west. With this integration, everything in heaven and earth, including the boundless mountains and rivers, seemed to emit bursts of joy from the bottom of their hearts as they sang. Beasts flew, fishes leaped out of the water, and cranes soared in the sky. It seemed that everything in heaven and earth, including the grass and trees, was celebrating and trembling. The Eldritch world has finally merged with the many worlds conquered by the extraterritorial army and improved further. In the various sacred realms, the various Buddhist and Tao ancestors witnessed this scene. They couldn't hide the joy in their eyes. As the Eldritch world's origin improved, the 4, 9, and 8 Daos would release part of the restrictions and evolve towards the 81 and 8 Daos step by step. The 50th Great Dao would be born, and in the future, more innate Daos would slowly appear. Everyone was stuck in the same place and couldn't make any progress. The Buddhist and Tao ancestors were undoubtedly more choices. The path to heaven, the opportunity for the eldritch world to advance. Finally, someone has completed this crucial step. The various Tao ancestors and Buddhist ancestors looked at the journey to the West group as the group that completed the advancement of the eldritch world void universe. They were bound to receive the greatest benefits. In the 33 heavens, in the river of destiny, raging waves and rolling thunder shook the entire eldritch world. A huge lump of Xianhuang merit aura condensed above Spirited Mountain like the sun. That lump of merit was so huge that even the various Tao ancestors and Buddhist ancestors were surprised. Chapter 1390. Regardless of which great world it was, the Xianhuang merit was an all-purpose existence. It could be used to refine Dharma treasures, cultivate divine powers, speed up cultivation, or directly boost one's dharmic powers to refine one's essence spirit. Even for Buddhist and Tao ancestors who had already attained Tao integration, the Xianhuang merit was extremely useful. If the Xianhuang merit was not used, it could be hung behind one's head to form a golden wheel of merit that was invulnerable to all dharma and evils. With so much merit, even Tao ancestors and Buddhist ancestors would have to carefully weigh the pros and cons before killing him. Killing someone with great merit would result in a backlash from the great Tao. Although such a huge backlash would not be able to severely injure the Tao ancestors and Buddhist ancestors who were said to be indestructible and indestructible. However, it could be reflected on one's own sect, or disciple. It could cause the sect to collapse and the Tao teachings to be severed. The monk, Qin Feng, Monkey, Old Pig, and Old Sam were also slightly excited as they looked at the Xianhuang merit above their heads. With so much merit, even Goddess Hutu's reincarnation and Nuwa's mending of the heavens in the past could not compare. With so much merit, the monk's Tao of merit is probably about to reach perfection. Qin Feng glanced at the monk beside him, who was filled with excitement. Among the group, this monk was the one with the highest chance of attaining the Tao. The Nanwa luminous Vajra Buddha rowed the boat and soon passed the Lingyun immortal crossing. The group gently jumped onto the opposite shore from the boat. Just as they reached the shore and looked back, the bottomless boat had already disappeared. At this point, Monkey and the rest explained to the monk that it was the guiding Buddha. The monk came to his senses and hurriedly turned around to bow to Lingyun Du with his palms pressed together. Then he turned around and bowed to Qin Feng, Monkey, Old Pig, and Old Sand. After more than 10 years, it was all thanks to all of you that I was able to reach the Spirit Mountain in the west. Please accept my bow. Monkey waved his hand and smiled. Monk, we are not indebted to each other and are supporting each other. It was all thanks to Master's help that we were able to reach the Nirvana realm. The monk smiled when he saw that. The Master and disciples exchanged glances and looked into the depths of the magnificent scenery. All of them were light and fast as they walked up the spiritual mountain. The top of the ancient thunderclap temple towered into the sky and connected to the meridian. The exquisite peaks were arranged in an irregular pattern. At the bottom of the cliff, there were jade grasses and beautiful flowers. Beside the winding path, there was the fragrance of purple Ganoderma. The immortal ape plucked the fruit and put it into the peach forest, but it was like fire burning gold. The white crane perched on the branches of the pine tree, like smoke holding jade. There were a pair of colorful phoenixes and a pair of blue wands. A pair of colorful phoenixes, singing to the sun to propitiate the world. A pair of blue wands, dancing in the wind, rarely seen in the world. He also saw the yellow and eerie golden tiles and mandarin ducks, the bright tiles and the agate tiles. The east and west rows were filled with Rue Palace and Pearl Tower. The south and north rows were filled with treasure pavilions and treasure houses. The heavenly king hall shone with multicolored light, and the lawkeeper hall spewed out purple flames. The Buddha pagoda is visible. The fragrance of the alms bowls and flowers are fragrant. It is the difference between the earth and the sky. The clouds are idle, and the day is long as the world of mortals is not over. There will be no loss in 10,000 tribulations. The group of 5 led the white dragon horse to the entrance of the Tempest Temple. The 4 great Vajras of Buddhism had already come to welcome them. The 4 great Vajra were Mount Wutai's secret devil cliff. Mount Ame's magical power was boundless, surpassing Vajra. Mount Ame's magical power was boundless, surpassing Vajra. Mount Meru's Mower Cliff, Mount Lush's Great Strength Vajra, and Kunlun's Genine Ridge, Mount Kunlun. Seeing the monk bow, the 4 great Vajras quickly helped him up, saying that they didn't dare to accept it. The 4 great Vajras indeed didn't dare to accept it. Although they had the body of a Vajra and were famous in the West Earth, these 5 immortals were half-step golden immortals in Taoism. In Buddhism, they were known as the future Buddhas. For example, Tang Sanzang and Sun Wukong had a high chance of attaining the supreme Bodhi. How would the 4 dare to accept the 5 future Buddhas' bow? Holy monk, please wait for a moment. Please allow me to report before entering. The 4 great Vajras reported, and after a while, a monk came forward to lead the way. The 5 entered the great strength hall and saw the Gautama Buddha's 9-grade lotus platform, the 8 bodhisattvas, the 4 great Vajras, the 5 great Vajras, the 5 great Vajras, the 11 great Vajras, and the 18 great Vajras. All of them revealed their Buddhist light, and they were all majestic. The boundless Buddhist light shook the heavens. Such a scene was far beyond the heavenly court's Ling Shao and even the ancient shamans and demons of the past. It was even worse than the scene of thousands of Buddhas coming to greet them. From this, one could see the prosperity of Buddhism. Qin Feng, Monkey, Old Pig, and Old Sans Taoist hearts trembled slightly, and they were excited. After today, the 4 of them could be considered true Buddhist banis. With such a strong backing, they were no longer wandering ghosts that could be ordered around and killed by others. As the main character of this journey, the monk first bowed to Tathagata and handed over the clearance document with both hands. The monk bowed and went forward again, saying respectfully, "Disciple Xuanzang, under the orders of the Emperor of Tang of the East, went to the treasure mountain and prayed for the true scriptures to help the masses. I hope that the Buddha will grant me the true scriptures as soon as possible." On the 9-treasured lotus, the Buddha nodded and said with a smile, "Your eastern land is the south continent. Because of the vastness of the world, the abundance of resources, and the density of people, there is much greed and much killing, much lust and much deceit. They don't follow Buddhism, don't follow good karma, don't respect the 3 lights, don't care about the 5 grains, don't be loyal, don't be filial, don't be righteous, don't be benevolent, don't hide one's heart, don't fight with small scales and kill animals. They have created boundless sins and are full of sins, causing the calamity of hell. Therefore, they fall into the netherworld forever and suffer the pain of being beaten by many animals, turning into animals. There are many animals with fur and horns on their heads, paying their debts with their bodies and feeding their flesh to others. They fall into Avicii forever and can't ascend. This is the reason. Although the Kong family has established the teachings of benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wisdom, and the successive emperors have punished them with the punishment of being hanged, they are ignorant and unrestrained people. Today, I have the Sanzang of Sutras, which can transcend distress and explain calamities. The Sanzang, there is the Dharma, which talks about heaven. There is the treatise, which talks about earth. There is the Sutras, which saves ghosts. There are a total of 35 sutras, 15,144 scrolls. It is really the path of cultivation, the gate of righteousness and kindness. It contains the astronomy, geography, people, birds and beasts, flowers and trees, tools, and human affairs of the 4 great continents. Thou hast come from afar, I will give them all to thee. But the people of that side are foolish and strong. They slander the truth. They do not know the profound edict of our shaman. Then he ordered the two venerables on his left and right, Anuo, you two lead him to the pavilion of delicacies. Give him vegetarian food first. Open the pavilion of delicacies and give him a few scrolls of my 35 sanzang of sutras. Teach him to pass it on to the eastern land, to be eternally grateful. Second venerables immediately received the order. What happened next? Qin Feng looked on coldly from the side, including second venerables deliberately making things difficult for the monk. Qin Feng knew that the path to heaven to the west was about to enter the final juncture as they returned to the Great Tang. In the western land of Buddhism, those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas would have to make their move. These calamities were harmless, but they could also take advantage of them to share a portion of their merit and fate. In this path to heaven to the west, the Tao ancestors and Buddhist ancestors had the most benefits, while the 5 future Buddhas had the most merit and fate. As the saying went, the few of them ate meat and drank wine in big mouthfuls, but they had to let the other Buddhist experts have some soup. The moon was at a disadvantage. Just as Qin Feng expected, the Buddhist venerables made their moves one after another, giving them tests. The few of them passed the various calamities and restored the Great Tang. It was exactly 8 days. On the 9th day, when the sun rose, the 5 of them returned to the spirited mountain. At this moment, the boundless Xianhuang merit was rolling like thunder on the spirited mountain, about to fall. Chapter 1391. As Tang Sanzang's group of 5 and the White Dragon Horse returned to Spirit Mountain in West Earth, the gazes of all the great divines fell on Spirit Mountain. Above Spirit Mountain, the great Thunderclap Temple was filled with boundless Buddhist light that soared into the sky. Millions of auspicious lights surged, startling all the worlds. In the boundless Buddhist kingdom, 10 Buddhas descended with their true bodies. Innate Karma Buddha Lord, Amitabha. Innate Nirvana Buddha Lord, Junti Buddha Mother. Present Buddha Lord, Shakyamuni. Glazed Buddha Lord. Innate 5 Elements Buddha Lord. Past Buddha Lord. Future Buddha Lord. Great Sun Buddha Lord. Great Light Buddha Lord, Guanyin Supremacy. Illuminating Sky Treasure Light Unrestrained Buddha Lord. The light of the 10 Buddhas was as majestic as the sea, as if the great Tao had descended. There were also 3,000 Buddhas, such as Ju Lu Sun Buddha, Ancient Dragonlight Buddha, Ancient Sarara Golden Body Buddha, Ancient Moonlight Buddha, and other ancient Buddhas. Endless Bodhisattvas, Arhats, Vajras, and Jialan appeared one after another, and the Buddhist kingdoms were extremely majestic. Sitting in the center was the present Buddha Lord, Shakyamuni Buddha. The past Buddha Lord was Dipankara Buddha, and the future Buddha Lord was East Arrival Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha was the 3 eras Buddha and the 3 seasons Buddha Lord. He was also the ancestor of all the Buddhas that were rotating in Buddhism. Seeing the monk, Qin Feng, son Wukong, Zhu Beiji, Sha Wujing, and the White Dragon Horse in human form, Aolai, the 3rd prince of the West Sea Dragon Palace, stepped forward. Shakyamuni Buddha looked at the 6 people who came forward, and his gaze first fell on the monk. Xuanzang, you were my 2nd disciple in your previous life, and your name was Golden Cicada. Because you didn't listen to the Dharma and look down on my great sect, your true spirit was demoted and you were reincarnated in East Earth. Today, you have converted and taken the true scriptures for my sect. You have achieved great merit and been promoted. You are the Buddha of immeasurable merit and virtue, the 6th of all Buddhas. As soon as the Buddha's voice fell, the firmament above Spirit Mountain shook violently. Billions of Buddhist kingdoms shone brightly, and the 10 directions Pure Lands appeared. On the 9-grade lotus platform, the Buddha pointed. About 30% of the boundless black and yellow merits rolling in the 9 heavens turned into a beam of golden light and fell on the submissive monk. With a boom, a wave of Buddhist light rushed out from Golden Cicada. on the spot. A huge golden relic suddenly shone brightly and flew out from the top of the monk's head. A Buddhist kingdom of immeasurable merit appeared. In the changing Buddhist light, the aura of the five decay of celestial beings was swept away. It was as if the dark clouds in the sky were shattered. The monk, who was already showing signs of old age, was immediately reborn, turning into a handsome monk with red lips and white teeth. A faint pressure emerged from his body, and he instantly rushed from a mortal to an arhat, followed by a golden arhat, bodhisattva of the 10 earths, and Bodhi Buddha. In an instant, he directly rushed into the realm of the future Buddha, which was equivalent to a half-step golden immortal. A cloud of West Earth's immeasurable merit of bliss emerged from his body. The first step, the second step, the third step, the fourth step. Without the suppression of the five decay of celestial beings, not only did the monk recover all his memories, but he also instantly recovered the peak cultivation of the ancient Buddhist almighty, golden cicada. As the majestic golden light entered his body, the aura of his aura was slightly weakened. His aura stagnated slightly, and in the next moment, various Tao integration avatars appeared. He actually directly took the fourth step and took the opportunity to break through to the Tao fusing realm. At this moment, the gods and Buddhas in the sky, the worlds, and the trillions of small worlds, all the almighty beings in the heavens were staring at this place. Many almighty beings were unwilling, but no one dared to rush into the great thunderclap temple of Mystical Mountain at this moment to stop the Buddha of immeasurable merit from breaking through to the Khanate merit great Tao. With the 10 Buddhas guarding, even the Tao ancestors of the heavens would have to retreat. The monkey, Zhu Beiji, Monk Sha, and the white dragon horse looked at the monk in shock. Qin Feng's expression did not change. From the beginning, he knew that the monk cultivated the Khanate merit great Tao of the Khanate 5 virtues great Tao. The Khanate merit great Tao was different from the saint virtue, moral virtue, Yin virtue, and fortune virtue of the Khanate 5 virtues. The saint virtue referred to the emperor. In the Eldritch world, only the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, the emperors and the various deity emperors, were qualified to cultivate this great Tao. The Khanate saint virtue great Tao required the emergence of a supreme heavenly emperor to unify the heavens and earth, wipe out the Taoists and Buddhas of the heavens. This Khanate great Tao was basically a dead end. In the past, the Khanate Slaughter Luo, Ho Tao ancestor, wanted to unify the Eldritch world and subdue the Tao ancestors of the heavens. However, he died in the hands of Tao ancestor Hongjun. If even the Khanate Slaughter Luo, Ho Tao ancestor died, the chances of others were slim. On the other hand, the Khanate virtue was focused on education. Only the sect masters and the 100 scholars of the Middle Ages were qualified to attain this great Tao. However, it was rumored that the Khanate virtue was already occupied by the Grand Supreme Taoist Master of the Tai Chin Palace at the 17th step. This Khanate great Tao was already extinct. Basically, the great masters of the Middle Ages who cultivated this great Tao had already reincarnated. The Khanate Yin virtue was already occupied by Lady Pingxin Hutu. This great Tao was also severed. The Khanate virtue required one to cultivate good fortune and longevity. It was already occupied by the South Pole Tao ancestor of the Jade Pure Taoist master of the 12 Taoists. This great Tao was also severed. Among the Khanate 5 virtues, only the Khanate merit great Tao still had a way forward. This was common knowledge. To cultivate the Khanate merit great Tao, one needed to accumulate boundless merit. Since the primordial era, when Tao ancestor Emperor Wam mended the heavens, great merit was basically severed. In the primordial era, there were half-step golden immortals. The future Buddha wanted to cultivate this great Tao, but all of them fell before the great Tao. The many postnatal Tao integration phenomenons form a country. Rays of golden light of salvation struck down in every corner of the heavens and earth, transforming into a boundless golden lotus of merit. The resonance of the three realms was like a thunderclap in the heavens and earth. In the ears of the mighty figures, it was like the evening drum and morning bell, causing their primordial spirits to tremble. The golden lotus of merit of the Tao, transformation, auspicious sign, an incomparably majestic and sacred golden great Tao of light faintly emerged from his body like spots of golden light. It was boundless, without beginning or end, with no end in sight. The majestic golden light illuminated the spirit mountain, the nirvana world, the billions of Buddhist countries, and the heavens and earth. The manifestation of the connate merit great Tao was another type of Tao transformation auspicious sign. Spots of Buddhist light appeared from the Buddha of immeasurable merit's body, seemingly blending with the mysterious golden great Tao of light. Qin Feng seemed to see the golden cicada step closer to the boundless golden great Tao of light manifested by the connate merit great Tao. He was about to begin the Tao transformation. At this moment, all the mighty figures in the heavens and earth were staring intently at the Buddha of immeasurable merit. The Buddha of immeasurable merit, who had cultivated for 10 lifetimes and walked through the journey to the west path to heaven, slowly emerged in the void like Mercury, forming a small Tao that was similar to the connate merit great Tao. It slowly approached the manifested connate merit great Tao. The Buddha of immeasurable merit's vast merit gushed out like a river. Every time it approached the great Tao, the Buddha of immeasurable merit's body dimmed a little. This was the difference between the connate merit great Tao and the other connate great Taos. Every step required boundless merit, especially the last step. The amount of merit required was enough to make even the Tao ancestors and Buddha ancestors' scalps tingle. The Buddha of immeasurable merit's vast merit shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. Gradually, he formed a miniature version of the connate merit great Tao with his immeasurable merit great Tao and merged it into the connate merit great Tao. It was a very strange feeling, as if the Buddha of immeasurable merit had forcefully entered the connate merit great Tao. However, at this moment, the Buddha of immeasurable merit's golden body suddenly dimmed, as if entering the connate merit great Tao had exhausted all of his merit and primordial spirit. Terrifying cracks appeared on his body. There was a loud boom. In an instant, the golden body crumbled. Note, this monk is not the Buddha of sandalwood merit, and the chaotic world is not the original journey to the west. The Buddha of sandalwood merit is ranked third from the bottom among the 3,000 Buddhas in the Western Pure Land, while the Buddha of immeasurable merit is ranked sixth. Chapter 1392. Crack. This soft sound seemed to be the collapse of heaven and earth. The golden body shattered in an instant. The fragments turned into dozens of pieces, like mixed gold pieces falling down. A bit of true spirit flew out from the shattered golden body. The true spirit turned into an illusory and unstable illusory figure. He was dim like fluorescent light, as if he would be extinguished at any time. At this moment, a bit of darkness was born from the depths of his body. That bit of darkness was like a bottomless abyss. It was formed by the darkest thoughts of billions of living beings in the world. It was as if the Buddhist kingdom and the immeasurable pure land were about to fall. In the darkness, it was as if heaven and earth were withering and withering. Darkness spread rapidly from his body. The true body, formed by the true spirit, was withering rapidly. Inner demon, Qin Feng felt that it was neither right nor wrong. It was like the backlash of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Or rather, it was the curse of the evil thoughts of billions of living beings that could not be released and sank into the boundless hell. The saddest moment had arrived. All living beings obstruct the Tao. At this moment, in the spirit mountain, the 10 Buddha lords sighed. The connate merit great Tao was destined to form karma with all living beings. Merit came from all living beings from heaven and earth, and from the countless worlds in the heavens. Naturally, one would have to accept the backlash of all living beings. They would definitely not give birth to someone who could ascend to the position of the Khanate Merit Tao ancestor. Obviously, even if the Buddha of immeasurable merit had boundless merit, he could not withstand the curse of all living beings in the world. The true spirit was about to wither and turn into dust. In a hazy Buddha light, the illusory, true spirit's expression was neither sad nor happy. He held the immeasurable merit seal in his hand and spoke solemnly from the depths of his heart. When I am a Buddha, all living beings in the world, hear my name, give Bodhi heart, cultivate all merit, follow the 6 Buddhas, be firm and unyielding, return with the root of kindness, be born in my country, think of me, day and night, near the end of my life, I and the Bodhisattvas appear before you. After a moment, be born, I will stop, to be the Bodhisattva of Awe Yueji, not willing, not taking the right enlightenment. When I am a Buddha, boundless light, shine in all directions, surpass all Buddhas, surpass the brightness of the sun and moon. Trillion times, if there are living beings, see my light, shine on them, be at ease, do good with kindness, be born in my country. If not, you don't take the right path. When I was a Buddha, all living beings in all directions, hear my name, he believed in joy. All the good roots return to him. May you be born in my country, or even 10 thoughts, if he is not alive. He did not take the right path. Only the 5 defiants were eliminated. Defamation is punishable by law. After making 18 great wishes in a row, the Buddha of immeasurable merit was devoured by his inner demon. His true spirit body that was about to be annihilated instantly stabilized, and a magnificent brilliance was born from the depths of his primordial spirit relic. It was as if there was a supreme power that stopped the terrifying backlash. This was the famous Buddhist art of great vows. By making a grand wish and strengthening one's Bodhi heart, one could obtain the support and favor of the great desolate Eon. Even so, in the eyes of Qin Feng and the all heaven's mighty figures, the Buddha of immeasurable merit could only hold on for a moment or two. The phantom of the Khanate Merit Great Tao that the Buddha of immeasurable merit had intercepted in the depths of the Khanate Merit Great Tao had gradually begun to change. It turned into a golden and orange-yellow merit Tao seed that contained boundless power. The second last step of Tao integration, the condensation of the Tao seed, was completed. This step intercepted a segment of the great Tao and condensed a boundless Tao seed. The Buddha of immeasurable merit fused with Khanate merit, so it was naturally a Khanate merit Tao seed. The Tao seed that the Buddha of immeasurable merit chose was a pale, golden merit golden lotus. The Tao seed gradually transformed into the form of a merit golden lotus. The final and most crucial step had arrived. Tao integration. Among the half-step golden immortals of the all heavens who attempted Tao integration, apart from some who died at the hands of the all heavens Buddhas and Tao ancestors, 99% of them died at this last step of Tao integration. This step was the gates of hell for the all heavens half-step golden immortals and the future Buddha. Since the primordial era, a large number of half-step golden immortals and the future Buddha had fallen at this step. The Buddha of immeasurable merit's expression was cold, like a cicada that would never change. He seemed to have seen a tiny golden cicada that was born from the heavens, bit by bit amidst the bloody rain, using endless cold time to sharpen its 6 wings that were as thin as cicada's wings into the sharpest flying dagger in the world. The wind and rain remained as cold as one. In an instant, his illusory, true spirit body collapsed, turning into countless light spots that slowly rotated and pounced on the merit Tao seed that was glowing with golden light. Rumble. In the next moment, the void darkened as if it had become extremely unstable. The 3,000 great Taos had lost their balance. Countless bodhisattvas, immortals, and deities who cultivated the great Tao of merit seemed to have lost all their dharmic powers at this moment. In particular, in countless boundless worlds, several half-step golden immortals and future Gautama who cultivated the great Tao of merit suddenly felt that they had lost all traces of the innate great Tao of merit. It was as if this connate great Tao had suddenly disappeared among the 3,000 great Taos. But in the next moment, heaven and earth shook violently. In the endless worlds, the immeasurable Buddhist kingdom's pure land shone brightly. Heavenly flowers fell from the sky, and golden lotuses sprouted from the ground. Countless purple clouds filled the spirit mountain of West Earth, and the mighty Buddha light boiled like the sea. A new connate merit great Tao was born. It was brand new and extremely small like a budding vegetable, but it instantly grew. As it grew, bits of Buddha light intertwined with the radiance of the great Tao, and a cold figure in a red kasaya slowly appeared. It was the Buddha of immeasurable merit whose golden body, primordial spirit, and true spirit had completely collapsed. No, he was no longer the Buddha of immeasurable merit. He was the Buddha of immeasurable merit, the Merit Buddha Lord. Amitabha, congratulations on attaining the supreme Bodhi. At this moment, not only Qin Feng, but also the monkey, old pig, old sand, and all the other Buddhas on Spirit Mountain bowed to the Merit Buddha Lord. Everyone, you're too polite. The Merit Buddha Lord smiled faintly. His expression was still cold, aloof, and distant as he bowed slightly to everyone. When his gaze swept across the monkey, Qin Feng, old pig, old sand, and little white dragon, there was an undetectable smile in his eyes as he nodded at them. Apart from Qin Feng, the monkey, old pig, old sand, and little white dragon, the mighty figures of the all heavens felt that the voice seemed to be right beside their ears. Accompanied by that faint voice, there seemed to be a boundless power sweeping out like a raging wave. At this moment, all the half-step golden immortals and the future Buddha felt as if the 3,000 great Taos were violently shaking. The all heavens seemed to be following his every move, and countless small worlds were rising and falling. This was the power of a Buddha. He actually succeeded. At this moment, countless mighty figures of the all heavens were aghast. In the Xian sect, the 11 Tao ancestors had different expressions. Some were sighing, some were helpless, and some were angry. The Merit Buddha Lord was the 11th Buddha of the Buddhist sect. With the appearance of this Buddha Lord, the golden immortals on both sides of the Buddhist sect and the Xian sect could be considered to be in a stalemate. The Buddhist sect providence had increased greatly, and there might be one or two more Buddhas. The all heavens mighty figures couldn't help but look at the remaining half-step golden immortals who were about to be conferred the title of future Buddha, especially Sun Wukong and Qin Feng. Chapter 1393. On the side, Qin Feng, the monkey, old pig, old sand, and little white dragon still looked as if they hadn't had enough. Qin Feng, the monkey, old pig, Lao Sha, and little white dragon had witnessed the virtuous Buddha Lord's attempt at the Tao integration stage with their own eyes. The insights they gained from witnessing the Tao integration stage at such a close distance were like immortal brew that had been buried underground for thousands of years. The charm was indescribable. It was as if the great Tao had cleansed his Yuan spirit. Countless traces of the great Tao were unprecedentedly clear in his heart, illuminating the dark parts of his soul. Using this insight, little white dragon completely solidified his foundation and ascended to the Tao Lord Buddha realm. He only needed to take the first step to become a half-step golden immortal, future Buddha. Old pig, old sand, and the monkey also gained something. Old pig and old sand could be considered to have reached the threshold of the third step of the future Buddha, half-step golden immortal. As for the monkey, his Tao heart was perfect and flawless. With the help of Merit Buddha Lord, he had reached the crux of attaining enlightenment. Qin Feng also gained something. He felt that the fusion of his Yuan spirit and Tao heart had become more complete. Inside and outside, it was clear and condensed. Vaguely, he could sense the innate creation great Tao more deeply. It was as if he could take the final step like a monk at any time. On Numinous Mountain, another Buddha title rose with Merit Buddha Lord's ascension. He was the sixth of the 11 Buddhas. Merit Buddha Lord was an innate Buddha that had merged with the innate merit Great Tao. His status was even higher than the 5 ordinary postnatal Buddhas. He was second only to the innate Karma Buddha Lord, Amitabha, innate Nirvana Buddha Lord, innate 5 Elements Buddha Lord, Kong Xian, Lazuli Buddha Lord, Medicine Master, and now Shakyamuni. The other 5 postnatal Buddhas, Great Light Buddha, East Arrival Buddha, Dipankara Buddha, Mahavakana Buddha, and Sky Illuminating Treasure Light Unrestrained Buddha, had no objections. Although they had attained Tao first, their status was indeed inferior to postnatal Buddhas like Merit Buddha Lord who had attained Tao through the innate Tao. Seeing Merit Buddha Lord attain Tao, a smile appeared on Shakyamuni's face. His gaze swept across the rest of the group and stopped at the monkey and Qinfeng. A moment later, his gaze landed on the monkey. Son Wukong, because of your havoc in the heavenly palace, I used my profound mana to suppress you under the 5 Elements mountain. Fortunately, the calamity was resolved and you returned to Buddhism. I am pleased that you hid your evil deeds and promoted your good deeds. Along the way, you have performed meritorious deeds by refining demons and vanquishing monsters. You have been promoted to a higher position. You are the Namo Great Sage, Surura, Venerable Buddha, the ancestor of all Buddhas in the future. First among the 3,000 Buddhas. The monkey's identity was special. All the Buddhas on Spirited Mountain knew that his master was Patriarch Bodhi, one of the 3 relics of the Buddha Lord of Nirvana. He could be said to be the direct disciple of the Buddha Lord. Once the monkey attained Tao, he would definitely become the owner of the Spirited Mountain. In the next calamity, he would be the ancestor of all Buddhas, the Buddha of reincarnation of the Western Paradise. He wasn't surprised by such a title. As the sound of his voice faded, the Xianhuang merit above the 9 heavens rumbled once again. Out of the 100% merit, another 15% separated and landed on the monkey's body. The monkey's eyes were closed. An invisible aura of the great Tao enveloped his body. The aura of the 5 decays of heaven and man that shrouded the primordial spirit, Sarira, collapsed inch by inch. His primordial spirit reached an extremely quiet and wonderful state. His Tao heart instantly merged with his primordial spirit, shooting out an incredible brilliance that enveloped his entire body. He has broken through to the 4th step of the outer Tao derivation technique. At this moment, everything that happened to the monkey couldn't be hidden under the wisdom of the 11 Buddhas. After a moment, the monkey opened his eyes. A boundless Buddhist light of wisdom rushed out. An auspicious cloud above his head was rich with Buddhist light. Golden lamps and Bodhi pearls flowed with brilliance. An incomparably terrifying power set off stormy waves on his body. Under this power, the entire Spirited Mountain seemed to shake a few times. Boundless heavens and trillions of small worlds trembled violently, as if they would collapse at any time. After Sun Wukong broke through the 4th step, he also found the path of the great Tao of congenital strength. At this moment, he had completely caught up with Qinfeng and was also on the verge of attaining Tao. However, the monkey wasn't like the Merit Buddha Lord. He resisted this impulse. Seeing this, Shakyamuni Buddha smiled slightly. His gaze then fell on Qinfeng. The Emperor of the Boundless World, Buddha Lord of the Sea, you have become a Buddha. However, you have escorted the holy monk all the way to the west and saved the holy monk from danger many times. You have contributed the most. I confer upon you a great title again. Thou art the boundless green lotus creation, venerable Buddha, Lord of the world, the future ancestor of all Buddhas, and the second among the 3,000 Buddhas. The boundless green lotus creation, venerable Buddha, Lord of the world, was the second among the 3,000 Buddhas. Although he was slightly inferior to the monkey, Qinfeng was still satisfied. The Buddha Lord of the Void Destruction Buddha Lord had a powerful master. He was just an itinerant cultivator. He was probably only able to reach this position because of the Glazed Buddha Lord. Regarding this, The 3,000 Buddhas didn't look dissatisfied. Unlike the monkey, who was the personal disciple of the Void Destruction Buddha Lord, Qin Feng, who was the boundless green lotus creation Venerable Buddha Lord of the world, had fought with his sword and saber. On the journey to the west, everyone knew that the number of half-step golden immortals who died under his sword had already exceeded 2 digits. Above the 9 heavens, another 20% of the remaining merit fell. This merit was 5% more than the monkey's. The vast amount of merit fell. In an instant, another ray of golden light surged in Qin Feng's eyes. A certain barrier in his body that had been imprisoning him quietly shattered. The 11 Buddhas looked across the 3 realms and 6 paths with their wisdom eyes. They saw a figure that looked exactly like the boundless green lotus creation Venerable Buddha, Lord of the world, shattering from the upper reaches of the long river of time. It was like streams of flowing light had merged into the boundless green lotus creation Venerable Buddha, Lord of the world. It wasn't just the future. It seemed like the past, present, and future had merged into one with the boundless green lotus creation Venerable Buddha, Lord of the world, along with the boundless green lotus creation Venerable Buddha, Lord of the world, as one. The aura of the great Tao imprint on the boundless green lotus creation Venerable Buddha, Lord of the world, became more and more intense. It even exceeded the limit of ordinary half-step golden immortals, the future Buddha. Among the 3,000 Buddhas, only a few of the future Buddhas from the antiquity age could vaguely sense this. 3 lives in one. This is an interesting mystic technique. On the 9 Lotus platform, Shakyamuni Buddha saw this, and his eyes revealed a slight glimmer of light. Shakyamuni Buddha wasn't the only one. The other 10 Buddhas were also secretly using their great Tao to deduce. Since they had discovered this mystic technique, there were naturally traces that could be followed. They didn't need Qin Feng's mystic technique. They could deduce it by spending some time. It was obvious that this mystic technique had great potential. If they could deduce it, some of their personal disciples might have a glimmer of hope in attaining Tao in the future. However, the 11 Buddhas also realized that this mystic technique seemed to be in conflict with the techniques that their Buddhist disciples were currently cultivating. They might have to weaken it before it could be integrated into the Buddhist system. Even if someone managed to cultivate it, it would be difficult to reach even half of the power of the boundless green lotus creation Venerable Buddha, Lord of the world. Chapter 1394. The past, present, and future marks of the 3 lives shattered and merged into his body. Qin Feng seemed to have been nourished by 3 huge origins. His primordial spirit relic grew to the extreme. Then, a golden light flashed, and the huge primordial spirit relic in his body split into 3, turning into 3 smaller relics. Millions of rays of light bloomed in the auspicious clouds, turning into 3 huge Buddhist countries. The 3 relics were the creation of the past, the creation of the present, and the creation of the future. The Trinity. After gathering the power of 3 lives into one, even a 17th level Tao ancestor would not be able to catch him in the past, present, and future of the river of time. They would not be able to deal with him. Nearly 1/10 of the huge mass of golden light of merit was consumed as the 3 lives became one. The other part merged into his born Taoism aptitude. After Deshang's born Taoism aptitude merged with a part of the black-yellow merit, his Taoism aptitude emitted a yellow light from his bones to his skin. His born Taoism aptitude merged with a part of the black-yellow merit and gradually rose to a limit. The supreme aura of the connate great Tao of creation emanated from his body. Deshang's born Taoism aptitude rose to the peak, as if he could take the last step at any time and enter the perfected born Taoism aptitude of the Tao ancestor realm. My Taoism aptitude is close to perfection. At this moment, Qin Feng felt that he had only used less than 20% of the merit that he had obtained. With a thought, he divided a part of the merit and merged it into his primordial spirit relic. After consuming nearly 4/10 of the merit, his primordial spirit mana skyrocketed, and the 3 primordial spirit relic also rose to the peak. Each primordial spirit relic was full, and each of them alone was comparable to a top ancient future Buddha. At this point, his strength had far surpassed ordinary ancient half-step golden immortals, ancient demon saints, and ancient future Buddhas. There was still 60% of the merit left. His eyes moved slightly, and he simply infused it all into his natal numinous treasure, the grade 12 creation green lotus. Inside the Ling Hai Divine Court, the black-yellow merit power was infused into the innate lotus that he had painstakingly cultivated. The 9 innate, indestructible seals in his body trembled, and countless innate runes surged. As if the chaos was broken open, the yin and yang turned into the 8 trigrams, and the 8 trigrams gave birth to all living beings, forming a faintly discernible innate Tao embryo, innate Tao seed of creation. This was the Tao embryo, Tao seed, that only pre-world spirit treasures could have. The painting of mountains and rivers of the gods of earth and Vale occupied the spiritual treasure position corresponding to the innate great Tao of creation. Although the 12th grade green lotus of creation had formed the Tao embryo of the innate great Tao, it was ultimately illusory and could not materialize into reality. At the same time, the 5 decays of heaven and man descended. The cultivation of the magic treasures of the heavens also had its own tribulations. From low-grade magic tools, middle-grade magic tools, high-grade magic tools, and finally magic treasures. Low-grade Dharma artifacts had to withstand 12 layers of earthly fiend restrictions. A mid-grade magic artifact withstood 36 layers of earthly fiend restrictions. A high-grade magic artifact withstood 72 layers of earthly fiend restrictions. Above magic tools were magic treasures. Magic treasures were divided into low-grade magic treasures, mid-grade magic treasures, and high-grade magic treasures. Magic treasures had to withstand 36 layers of astral spirit seals. Above ordinary magic treasures were pure, yang magic treasures. When the 36 layers of astral spirit seals combined, a pure yang primordial spirit would be formed. Beyond that was the great void, numinous treasure realm, where the primordial spirit would be further condensed. At this stage, some numinous treasures could transform into humans and cultivate with the human body, turning the treasure body into a natal numinous treasure. Following, there were the 3 calamities and 8 disasters. The 3 calamities were thunder calamities, fire calamities, and phoenix calamities. They represented heavenly lightning body tempering, karmic fire burning, and hellish wind tempering. The 8 disasters were king disaster, thief disaster, fire disaster, water disaster, disease disaster, human disaster, non-human disaster, and venomous insect disaster. Overcoming them meant going against the Khanate heavens and becoming a Khanate Dharma treasure. In the primordial world, there were many treasures that had left their owners and turned into living primordial spirits through perfected spirit seals. They then became one of the many cultivators in the primordial world. Rumor had it that before Shakyamuni Buddha attained the Tao in ancient times, his original body was a Khanate Dharma treasure born from the Khanate. If an existence born from a Khanate Dharma treasure wanted to attain the Tao, they had to be like the immortals and Buddhas of the heavens. They had to go through the 5 decay of the heavens before they could step into the half-step golden immortal realm or the future Buddha realm. Qin Feng's Khanate green lotus of creation had long turned into a natal treasure. It was a Khanate Dharma treasure the moment it sprouted. The Khanate primordial spirit that was born was also occupied by Qin Feng's primordial spirit. The primordial spirit cultivated together, tempering and nurturing at all times. At this moment, the opportunity had arrived. It interacted with the primordial spirit in his body and nurtured the illusory Tao seed of creation. The 5 decay of the heavens descended and was almost broken through by Qin Feng with a single step. The billowing aura of the decay tribulation was washed away by the boundless merit and turned into powder. The illusory Tao seed of creation absorbed the great Tao creation transformed by the Deva's blight tribulation and completely stabilized. Moreover, after being cleansed by the boundless heaven and earth merit, its power increased greatly. It was as if it could easily suppress the vast universe and billions of living beings. Qin Feng closed his eyes as the various changes gathered on his body. The aura that was close to the great Tao revolved around his body. It was almost as if he was about to take the final step. On the spirit mountain, the Buddhas in the sky stared at the worldly infinite green lotus creation, supremacy Buddha, in horror. The aura of the worldly infinite green lotus creation, supremacy Buddha, had far exceeded the knowledge of many future Buddhas. Qin Feng forced himself to hold back. Someone had already reached the Tao integration stage of the Khanate creation great Tao. The others basically had no hope of succeeding unless they killed the creation Tao ancestor, Emperor Hua. However, the possibility of that was almost zero. Those below the Tao ancestor were ants. Although the half-step golden immortals and the future Buddhas were all high and mighty, they were just slightly bigger ants in the eyes of the Tao ancestors. Seeing that the worldly infinite green lotus creation supremacy Buddha did not choose to break through, a trace of regret flashed into Thagata's eyes. If the creation Tao ancestor, Emperor Hua, had not occupied the Khanate creation great Tao, the chances of the worldly infinite green lotus creation supremacy Buddha attaining the Tao were very high. With a sigh, Tathagata's gaze fell on Old Pig. Zhu Wuning, thou art the water god of the sky river, Marshal Tian Peng. Because of the feast of peaches, thou art drunk and played with Xian. Thou art banished to the lower realm and reincarnated like a beast. Fortunately, thou art remembered the human body of a loved one and committed sins in the cloud cave of Fulling Mountain. Thou art happy to return to the great sect and enter the sand gate. Thou art protecting the holy monk on the way, but thou art stubborn and lustful. Shao Wujing, thou art the curtain-lifting general. Because of the feast of peaches, thou art banished to the lower realm. Thou art landed in the quicksand river and committed sins by eating humans. Fortunately, thou art converted to our sect and sincerely respected Jiachi and protected the holy monk. Thou art a meritorious deed of climbing the mountain and leading the horse. Thou art promoted to the golden body light, Lord Buddha, the 98th of the Buddhas. Aolai, thou art the son of the Dragon King of Guangjin in the Western Ocean. Because thou art disobeyed the orders of thy father and committed the sin of being unfilial, thou art converted to the Dharma and joined the Sand Gate. Every day, thou art carrying the holy monk to the west and the holy scriptures to the east. Thou art also meritorious. Thou art promoted to the golden body Guangli Dragon Ancestor Buddha, the 2631st of the Buddhas. With all kinds of rewards, 10% of the Xianwang merit above the 9 heavens went to Old Pig, 10% went to Old Sha, and the remaining 5% went to the White Dragon Horse. The Xianwang Qi and Buddhist light on the 3 of them intertwined and turned into the bodies of Buddhas. All of them were sacred and immeasurable. The clear sacred Bodhi Buddha light shone brightly and shook the world in all directions. The White Dragon Horse took the opportunity to transform its cultivation into the Bodhisattva realm of the 10 earths. As the merit fell, it turned into a Buddha. Once it took the first step of Tao validation, it would become a future Buddha of the Buddhist sect. Old Pig and Old Sand had converted Buddhist dharmic powers to begin with. A huge relic appeared in their bodies as they emitted relic essence light. Both of them had completely stepped into the third step of the half-step golden immortal future Buddha and attained the true meaning of the Tao. They had respectively witnessed the true intent of devouring and the true intent of poison. Above the 9 heavens, the glazed Buddha Lord took 30% of the merit. The green lotus creation Venerable Buddha took 20%. The Nanwu relic Venerable Buddha took 15%. The Wood Mother Golden Lotus Buddha and the Golden Body Light Lord Buddha took 10% each, and the golden body Guangli Dragon Ancestor Buddha took 5%. The remaining 10% turned into countless Xianhuang Golden Light Lord Buddha and flew in all directions and landed in the hands of the great mediums. Chapter 1395 Spirit Sea, Tianliang Spirit Region, Emperor Star City. Emperor Star City. After the primeval emperor attained his Tao, he became the ruler of Emperor Star City. The original Tianliang sect, Primal Chaos sect, and many other sects in the surroundings successively submitted to the emperor's might. This place gradually became the core of dozens of spirit regions. The tall and majestic Emperor Star City sat outside the crater like a colossus. The Primal Chaos Star Palace in the center had been closed for the past year. Outside the palace, 3 kings stood guard like door gods. Outside the palace, countless experts patrolled. Among them, the auras of level 14 and level 15 could be found everywhere. Among them, there was no lack of quasi-deity experts. Even in the Tianliang spirit region, there were many powerful king auras overseeing the various major centers, suppressing the boundless regions of the spirit region. Compared to a year ago, the new Primal Chaos Xingqian School's power seemed to have expanded by more than 10 times. At this time, countless disciples of Primal Chaos Xingqian School appeared in the city. The market was bustling, and the faces of countless disciples were filled with confidence. They couldn't help but be confident. Right now, the Primordial Chaos Star Sect was stronger than any other era or epoch in history. Even when the Ziwei Divine Dynasty suppressed the epoch, it wasn't as strong as this. 2 emperors. Primal Chaos Xingqian School had 2 unparalleled emperors suppressing the current generation. Other than the primeval emperor, who had always been in seclusion, another unparalleled emperor appeared in Primal Chaos Xingqian School a year ago. The moment he made a move, he killed a peak demon emperor in the savage, desolate spirit region who was about to advance. The might of a great emperor was displayed, and the entire Spirit Sea continent went silent. At this time, in the depths of the Primal Chaos Star Palace, an invisible ripple of time circulated. A black-clothed figure seemed to have squeezed out of time. He wore a faint black robe, and his brows were like the clear wind and the bright moon. He was calm and composed, gentle and flawless. There was an aura on his body that was different from the Spirit Sea realm. It was violently rejected by the Spirit Sea realm, causing the great Tao to suppress it. There was an enormous power on his body that seemed to be able to easily tear apart the world. However, the aura on his body was silently transforming. After a moment, it transformed into a pure and flawless creation divine power of this realm. The creation divine power of the extreme Tao 9th layer. That wave of repulsion was silent and completely dissipated. Instead, it blended with the aura of the rules around him like water and milk. Even the void carried a faint trace of joy. I'm finally back. His indifferent voice carried traces of wind and frost. This figure was none other than Qin Feng, who had chosen to return. Back then, when Great Thunderclap Temple was honored by Buddhism as the world boundless green lotus venerated Buddha Lord, he followed the tradition of Buddhism. Nanwu Sura venerated Buddha, Wood Mother Golden Lotus Buddha, Golden Light Lord Buddha, and Golden Guangli Dragon Ancestor Buddha each went to the outer realms to establish their own supreme Buddhist kingdoms and suppress a great world. Turning around, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a complicated look. After entering the outer realm, the glazed Buddha had told them a part of the secrets of the great desolate world. It turned out that for countless years, the primeval world had been sending immortal and god armies to attack the various worlds outside the realm. For countless years, countless worlds of various sizes had been integrated into the primeval world. The primeval world had always been expanding. The journey to the west path to heaven seemed to be spreading Buddhism to the east, but in fact, it was the great worlds that had been integrated into the primeval world for countless years being completely swallowed by the primeval world as an opportunity to advance. It was also the opportunity to advance in the primeval world. At that time, Qin Feng finally understood why so many experts had attacked along the way. At the same time, there were actually more experts from the outer realms who were blocked by the bodhisattvas of Buddhism. However, as he left the primeval world, the huge pressure from the Khanate creation Great Tao disappeared. At that moment, the three Sariras in his body suddenly transformed into three substantial divinities that met the standards of the past creation, present creation, and future creation as the Chaos Origin Star's art revolved. The familiar divine power revolved in his body without the slightest hint of unfamiliarity. The only thing that was unfamiliar was the enormous divine power that was more than 10 times larger than before he left. The enormous divine power was slightly agitated, as if even time and space could not bear it. In fact, the three divinities and three Sariras were just two great worlds with different laws. They manifested different forms of Tao, fruit manifestations. In fact, their essence did not change. If one day he could comprehend the God laws of the myriad worlds, he would no longer be affected by heaven and earth and could freely transform his own Tao fruit. Feeling the familiar changes in the laws of heaven and earth in the void, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a cold smile. Did Emperor Envihua really think that by suppressing him all the time, she could block his future path, so that he would never be able to attain Tao? She did not know that he was a great emperor from a different world. Through the creator space, he could leave the primeval world as long as he paid a price. In the primeval world, he could not attain Tao and attain Khanate creation. In other places, he could do anything. Emperor Envihua had only merged with the great Tao of the primeval world. Other void universes had their own great Taos. In addition to the change in strength in the primeval world, Qin Feng had transformed into the infinite green lotus creation Venerable Buddha and participated in the pilgrimage to the west. Taking advantage of the time when the myriad worlds had merged with the primeval world, the creator space had stolen a lot of world origin force. The primeval world had merged with the myriad worlds and trillions of small worlds. It had obtained an infinite amount of world origin force and advanced. This time, Qin Feng had gone there at the right time and had accidentally joined the pilgrimage to the west. Although the world origin force stolen by the creator space was only 1/10,000th of the primeval world's origin force, the creator space had benefited greatly. Compared to completely unifying the primeval divine tree world and the land of stars, the benefits were even greater. The primeval world's level was indeed extremely high. Even in the 33 heavens, the primeval world should be an extremely high-level existence. In particular, after the primeval world had advanced, it had even surpassed the legendary eastern wilderness of the primeval world and the origin divine world of the Spirit Sea continent. Qin Feng sensed the creator space at this moment and could see that in the depths of the boundless space-time, the creator space had obtained sufficient world origin force to evolve. More than 10,000 types of Khanate essence Qi had emerged and intertwined with each other. Chaotic Tao runes had manifested. In the center, the primeval world, which was the theme of the creator space, had grown to an unimaginably terrifying level. The 7 realms in the inner layer had all transformed into the 7 highest heavens and were suspended above, just like the ultimate celestial realm of that world. Countless living beings had taken form above the primeval world. It was as if the primeval world had been created, the primeval world had appeared, and the primeval world had evolved. Those spirit roots were like the Khanate living beings that had been born in the creator space. With just one harvest, Qin Feng could feel that the creator space had truly broken away from its fledgling status when it had just advanced. It had truly grown into a mature creator space that truly belonged to the creator. All the major abilities had evolved. It had become a true creator-level creator space. Moreover, there were signs that it was about to advance into a chaos-level creator space. That was the creator space that corresponded to the 17th stage creator god of chaos. Another new volume. The path to creator god has begun. Chapter 1396. Empress Hua, you think that by suppressing me, you can pin me down and make it impossible for me to reach the Tao integration stage for eternity. But, when I enter the wilderness again, I will definitely give you a big surprise. With a chuckle, Qin Feng swept his sleeve. With a creak, the door of the Chaos Origin Star Palace, which had been in seclusion for a year and a half, opened amidst rumbling and dust. My lord! The three kings who were meditating at the door suddenly opened their eyes and stood up. Their gazes were filled with fervor as they looked at the black-robed youth who walked out of the door with respect. The expressions of the three venerated kings were extremely humble. It wasn't just the three kings. In front of the palace, some of the Chaos Xingqian School's elders and disciples were stunned. The next moment, they lowered their heads and bowed from the bottom of their hearts. Welcome back, great emperor! Voices rang out one after another, akin to pebbles falling into a calm lake, shocking the entire Emperor Star City. The various experts were all overjoyed. Their voices were like ripples in a lake, spreading to the nearby cities. Countless fervent gazes looked at the black-robed figure in front of the Chaos Origin Star Palace. A great emperor expert, regardless of the era or epoch, was a mythical existence. They had personally witnessed the birth of a legend in their own sect. Countless Chaos Xingqian School disciples couldn't describe the extreme pride and confidence they felt. And the source of all this was that black-robed figure. However, in the eyes of all the disciples, no one could see the true appearance of that figure, including the kings. It was as if that figure was the supreme incarnation of the laws above the heavens. Qin Feng didn't care about the countless Chaos Xingqian School disciples' gazes of admiration and fervor. He used his divine sense to connect with a vast dreamscape that spanned across many spirit domains. After more than a year of development, the dreamscape was even larger than he had imagined. It seemed to span nearly 100 spirit domains, enveloping huge regions. Trillions of living beings supported it, building an unimaginable dreamscape kingdom. Your Highness, a dignified expert manifested from the boundless dreamscape's laws sensed Qin Feng's thoughts. She was like a huge sun that appeared above the dreamscape kingdom. It was extremely dazzling. Boundless light from the dream realm swirled around her, layer by layer. As she appeared, the void seemed to dim under the holy light around her. Qin Feng's spiritual will seemed to sense an endless amount of faith gathering on her body. It was a kind of power of faith that was neither right nor wrong. It was huge, but abnormally pure. However, upon closer inspection, it was as if light and darkness were intertwined. The side of light was the extreme of goodness. Countless beautiful dreams of all living beings intertwined, transforming into a boundlessly beautiful scene. The other side was the extreme of evil, containing all the evil in the world. It was a boundless nightmare that was even more terrifying than hell. The figure seemed to split into two. One was the bright side of the ruler, a beautiful dream, and the other was the dark side of the ruler, a nightmare. She was the dream god. In the past year, his reputation had soared, and he had become the master of the boundless dream realm. The identity of this existence had long since become famous as the dream world expanded. Step by step, she walked from illusion to reality. Under the shocked and alert gazes of the three kings in front of the palace, she walked step by step to Qin Feng and knelt down on one knee respectfully and humbly. It's the dream god. That ancient existence has appeared. Seeing this scene, the three kings were surprised, but they put down their stern expressions at the same time, and there was no lack of self-restraint in their eyes. The dream god was incomparably powerful, especially among the many kings. He had the reputation of being invincible among those of the same level. His status was so noble that even the quasi-emperor ancestors of the top few large sects had to treat him with respect. Even so, in front of this emperor, he was nothing more than a speck of dust. A peak greater demi-immortal about to ascend to the strong demi-immortal realm? Qin Feng raised his eyebrows as he looked at the dream god. A year ago, The dream god had only just broken through to the greater demi-immortal realm after receiving the help of the dream realm. Now, however, he was already at the threshold of becoming a boundary emperor. The speed at which he had improved was astonishing. Evidently, the dream god had benefited from the expansion of the dream realm. However, Qin Feng could tell that the dream god's foundation had become somewhat shaky due to his sudden increase in strength. There were many hidden dangers in his future. Dream god, you seem to have improved tremendously over the past year. I'm surprised you still remember me, the Overgod. Qin Feng turned around and walked down the steps of the main hall. As he spoke, the group of people passed through a few gardens and side halls before arriving at the main hall. The kings followed closely behind him like servants. Within the main hall, many elders were handling official documents sent in from all over the world. It was just like a mortal court. In reality, the primordial Xingqian school controlled hundreds of spirit realms, and it was still expanding. The matters involved were many times more complicated than those of a mortal kingdom. A large portion of these matters had already been handed over to the dream realm to be handled by the divinities who were preparing to walk the path of divine belief. The remaining matters were left to the primordial Xingqian school to be dealt with by the elders in charge of the primordial star hall. After that, they would send in more disciples through the heaven and earth net or the dream realm. Step by step, they would send orders to the various regions. If they were dealt with again, they would have to be handed over to the kings and boundary emperors. If the boundary emperors couldn't deal with them, then the two emperors would have to step in. None of this had been delayed by Qin Feng's seclusion. Everything is because of the Overgod's light. The dream god doesn't dare to forget. The dream god was extremely respectful. His attitude hadn't changed in the slightest because of Su Qin's sudden increase in strength. The dream god was well aware of just how powerful this emperor was. Boundary emperors were nothing more than ants. Furthermore, he could clearly sense that this emperor's aura had become even more profound and powerful after going into seclusion. He was even more terrifying than the other underworld emperor. Most likely, this emperor had already killed his past self after going into seclusion. The dream god guessed to himself. Because of this, his heart became even more solemn. Upon seeing Qin Feng arrive, the elders in the main hall immediately stood up and bowed in unison. "Greetings, Emperor!" Qin Feng walked to the throne at the center of the main hall and sat down. His gaze fell upon the hundreds of elders who were handling administrative matters. "No need for formalities. You may continue." At the same time, he raised a hand, and hundreds of rainbow-colored droplets of triple brilliance sacred water flew out and landed on the bodies of the elders. Many of their auras began to surge. "Many thanks for your grace, Emperor." The elders were stunned at first, but when they sensed that the divine power in their bodies was becoming purer and purer, they were overjoyed and hurriedly kowtowed. Qin Feng calmly accepted the kowtow, without any change in his expression. He had always been fair in his rewards and punishments. Furthermore, this place was the center of primordial Xingqian school's administration. Even though these elders who were in charge of administrative matters had given up on their Tao and chosen to follow the path of a god, there was no future for them. These administrative matters are all dependent on everyone present. The prosperity and stability of primordial Xingqian school today is all thanks to everyone present. Primordial Xingqian school is fair in its rewards and punishments, so everyone should focus on administrative matters. Primordial Chaos Xingqian school will not forget your contributions and will reward you in the future. Upon hearing this, all of the elders were unable to contain their excitement. They had entered Primordial Xingqian School's main hall to handle administrative matters precisely because of this sentence. "We disciples are willing to lay down our lives for the Emperor." All of the elders' faces were flushed red as they knelt down in unison. Chapter 1397. Light. A boundless ocean-like light emerged from Qin Feng's body. Like a cool breeze, The vast light helped the hundreds of people in the palace stand up. Many of the elders were stunned, and their gazes became even more fervent. Qin Feng waved his hand as his gaze fell on the dream god. It seems like no true gods have been born in the past year. A strange light flashed through Qin Feng's eyes. He had noticed this when he had returned to the Spirit Sea. The heavenly principles had all completed their godhood thrones, and the true gods and godly kings that had been sleeping for countless eras had yet to be born. Even though many of the spirit realm's providence had risen, and many of the ancient experts and prodigies' auras were different. However, no true gods had appeared. This didn't make any sense. According to his calculations before he had left, the heavenly principles would rise even further in a year's time. True gods would appear one step further, awakening the ancient true gods and godly kings that had been sleeping for countless eras, thus ushering in a new era. It's not that they don't want to break into the godhood thrones, but that they can't. The dream god shook his head. They can't. Qin Feng gazed at the dream god curiously. His eyes revealed his suspicions. Indeed, it was just as he had guessed. It's the Six Paths Emperor. The Fortune Emperor has issued an imperial summons. No one is allowed to break into the godhood thrones for 10 years, or else they will be killed without mercy. The dream god's voice was filled with dissatisfaction. Qin Feng's expression didn't change, but a strange light flashed through his eyes. He had heard of Great Emperor Zhao Hua's identity before he entered the Eldritch Wilderness. Great Emperor Zhao Hua was the other great emperor. The other emperor had been born in the Imperial Shi sect. Coincidentally, the Fortune Emperor also cultivated the principles of creation. No one was allowed to break into the godhood thrones. This was obviously a tacit agreement between the primordial Xingqian school and the Fortune Emperor. No one was allowed to break into the godhood thrones for 10 years, which gave the two great powers 10 years to develop. Within 10 years, the primordial Xingqian school and the Imperial Shi sect would probably be able to divide up most of the Spirit Sea realm's territory. Will the major sects, the powers of the four seas, and the divine systems behind them allow such a thing to happen? Qin Feng's eyes were filled with a cold sneer. Of course not. Half a year ago, the top 10 forces sent 6 emperors to be, with their greatest treasures, to look for the Six Paths Emperor. But they were all defeated by the Six Paths Emperor. As soon as Qin Feng's voice fell, many of the kings who had entered the main hall of primordial Xingqian school to pay their respects to Qin Feng looked at each other with pride. It seems that my senior brother is stronger than I thought. Qin Feng glanced at the various kings in the palace from the corner of his eyes and took in their expressions. Sitting on the throne, he smiled faintly. Dao Yi, the great emperor of Six Paths. On his way back to the Spirit Sea, Qin Feng had heard of this name countless times through the dream realm. He was the ruler of the billions of underworld kingdoms and the second great emperor of the Origin Xingqian school. At this moment, he seemed to be able to see the depths of the boundless earth. Under the spirit realm, countless underworld lands were opened up, and there were many underworld gods shuttling back and forth. In the center of the countless underworld lands, the pieces of underworld lands were inextricably linked to a vast underworld kingdom in the depths of the endless void. It was a huge underworld kingdom of the main god. If Qin Feng's own main god space's origin had not skyrocketed, he might not have been able to discover the huge divine kingdom hidden in the boundless underworld lands. In the center of the divine kingdom, on a huge underworld emperor's throne, an underworld emperor seemed to have sensed something. He raised his head and looked in the direction of the primordial Xingqian school. He saw the black-robed great emperor in the main hall of the primordial star. Slightly stunned, Wang Daoi's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He's become stronger again. Wang Daoi could clearly sense the existence of the figure in the middle of the throne in the main hall of the primordial star. However, what shocked Wang Daoi was that he found that he could not lock onto the other party's existence. It was as if the figure was an illusion. It did not exist in his consciousness, only the normal flow of the laws of heaven and earth. This was a very terrifying phenomenon. If an expert of the same level could not lock onto the other party's existence, there is no doubt that there was a huge gap between them. The other party was definitely stronger than him, and not just by a little bit. This senior brother is interesting. When Qin Feng saw Wang Daoyi, he naturally saw the unconcealable shock on Wang Daoyi's figure. Qin Feng was not surprised that Wang Daoyi had confirmed his Dao. This person was originally a great emperor recorded in the strange history of the gods and demons. In Qin Feng's opinion, it was normal for him to be able to become a great emperor. What really made Qin Feng's expression change was that he found that the other party had actually refined the dimensional abyss's esophagus as the main body of the underworld god space. The dimensional abyss's esophagus was where all the darkness and filth in the world were located. It was one of the 10 great forbidden places in the world. Even a great emperor would be in trouble if he fell into it. However, this place was indeed very suitable for the reincarnation of heaven and earth. Using this place as the foundation to establish the reincarnation of heaven and earth, it could be considered to have perfected a part of the laws of heaven and earth in the spirit sea to a certain extent. Under the influence of the laws of the underworld, becoming a great emperor was basically a matter of course. Qin Feng could see that Wang Daoyi was not an ordinary great emperor. In just a short year, not only did he become a great emperor, but he also killed his past and present bodies. There were only traces of his future body that were entangled in the future. However, as the primordial Xingqian school expanded, the spirit regions fell into the hands of the Xingqian school. He used his supreme divine power to open up the netherworld divine kingdom. He believed that it would not be long before he could kill his future body. If the primordial Xingqian school could unify the spirit sea realm and become the overlord of the spirit sea realm, he would have the foundation to become the underworld god in a few years. Congratulations on your return, junior brother. Wang Daoyi's voice sounded in his ears across endless time and space. Qin Feng faintly smiled and also spoke. Thank you for helping me this year, senior brother. It's only right for us to be brothers from the same sect. Wang Daoyi was very polite. Although two tigers could not live on the same mountain, two great emperors came from the same sect. There would always be a hierarchy between them. However, the two of them really did not have any conflict of interest. He only needed the underworld's luck. In reality, he was just borrowing the primordial Xingqian school to open up the various spirit regions of the underworld. On the other hand, Qin Feng needed the primordial Xingqian school's own luck. The two were clearly separated and did not interfere with each other. They even complemented each other. Wang Daoyi was surprised by Qin Feng's return, but he was also secretly delighted. He just so happened to have a great plan that would benefit both of them. If this plan was completed, the two of them might become lords in the shortest time possible. Chapter 1398. You mean to unify the spirit sea? Qin Feng's eyes suddenly flashed as he sat on the throne in the main hall of the Origin Star Palace. That's right, junior brother. Now that the spirit sea realm is flourishing, many experts have appeared, including epic kings and quasi-emperors. However, they are strong, and the strongest are the three great emperors. The Origin Xingqian school has 2, and the Emperor Shi sect has 1. However, the Emperor Shi sect's great Emperor Zhao Hua has just broken through and hasn't severed any of the 3 imprints. He's no match for us. Why don't the two of us take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to unify the spirit sea realm? When the time comes, you'll be the celestial emperor, and I'll be the earthly emperor. We'll rule the world together. Wouldn't that be great? In the depths of the underworld kingdom, Wang Daoyi's eyes were filled with unprecedented ambition. Qin Feng was slightly surprised. Wang Daoyi's personality had always been calm and methodical. His arrangements were as light as the wind and clouds, and his moves were without a trace. He had never seen his opponent so aggressive. But soon after, Qin Feng smiled. At their level, there was no longer a need to set up any traps. Using brute force to break through 10,000 laws, they could directly flatten everything. Qin Feng muttered to himself irresolutely, and a strange glint flickered in his eyes as he said, "Senior Brother Wang, I agree with your plan, but you have to consider it carefully. Once we take action, I'm afraid we will face a fierce counterattack from those divine systems." "I'm not afraid, but you have to be careful." Qin Feng was talking about their divine kingdoms. His divine kingdom was located in the depths of the boundless void and was very difficult to capture. Even if he failed, he would still be able to escape with his subordinates if the situation turned bad. However, Wang Daoi was different. His divine realm was built in the Spirit Sea realm and was based on the dimensional abyss. It was difficult to move. Seeing Qin Feng agree, Wang Daoi's eyes flashed, and he said with a smile, "Junior Brother Wang, don't worry." "Junior Brother, you don't have to worry about that. No matter how powerful those divine systems are, they can only be blocked outside the Spirit Sea realm. They can only use projections or secret techniques to influence the sect and exert influence on the sect. They can't attack directly, so what is there to fear? Compared to a chief god's great Tao, there are some after effects. I don't think it's enough to make you retreat, Junior Brother. Sovereign's great Tao." Upon mentioning this word, Qin Feng's expression turned calm. On the throne, a bitter smile flashed in Qin Feng's eyes. Originally, he had returned to the Spirit Sea realm from the primordial barren land in preparation to fuse with the Spirit Sea realm's connate creation great Tao and attempt to ascend to the 16th level. However, just now, he unexpectedly discovered that even though this world was incomparably huge for some unknown reason, the laws of the heavens and earth, great Tao, were much weaker than the primitive world. Through the chief god space's analysis, he had actually come to the conclusion that this realm was unable to assimilate. In other words, this realm was unable to bear the weight of a rank 16 chief god. The analysis given by the chief god space was very simple. Only the laws of heaven and earth in the 33 upper realms could bear the weight of a chief god. In other words, apart from the wilderness, he would only be able to break through to the Lord level if he could find the other realms in the 33 skies. Just like the legendary origin divine world. Legend had it that since ancient times there had been Tao. In the upper levels of the Spirit Sea, there was another vast and boundless realm. The Spirit Sea realm was merely one of the countless lower realms in that vast realm. That realm was where the gods resided. Since the birth of the Spirit Sea realm, most of the true gods had entered that vast realm. That was the origin divine world, the home of the gods. Of course, the chief god space had pointed out that this was not his only path. Apart from the origin divine world, Qin Feng still had two other options: the Eastern Wilderness and the Chaos Origin Astral Realm. The Eastern Wilderness was a vast realm that belonged to the 33 upper realms that the Eastern Wilderness Great Emperor had nurtured with his own divine kingdom. Since that vast realm had given birth to a peerless chief god like the Eastern Wilderness Great Emperor, it had to be an extremely high-level realm, an existence that could bear the weight of a chief god. However, Qin Feng eliminated this place first. He was not a vassal of the Eastern Wilderness Great Emperor. How could the Eastern Wilderness Great Emperor allow him to attain Tao? In a foreign land, if Qin Feng could rule over an upper realm, he would not allow others to attain Tao integration in his own backyard and cause trouble for him. Moreover, there were only a limited number of connate Taoists in an upper realm. Many extremely high-level realms like the wilderness only had 50 connate Taoists that had just been born. Usually, newly born upper realms would only have 1 to 3 connate Taoists. There were too many of them and too little of them. Most of them were the exclusive property of the upper realms overlords. As for the Chaos Origin Astral Realm, it was an upper realm that Qin Feng's connate astral ancestor's clone had found in the legends of the Star River continent after he had attained Tao integration. It was the home of the stars, the central land of the countless star gods. Just like the Origin Divine Realm, there were bound to be other 16th rank overgods there. If a great emperor expert like him, who had no background, were to rashly enter the Origin Divine Realm and encounter an overgod who had a conflict over the great Tao, such as a domineering existence like Tao Ancestor Empress Hua, he would inevitably end up in a life or death situation. But even so, Qin Feng was not dispirited. This was because he had discovered a new opportunity. Regarding the changes in the spirit sea realm, Qin Feng had always felt that it was normal. Back then, after experiencing the journey to the west and witnessing the wilderness's advancement, Qin Feng realized that the phenomenon of the spirit sea realm returning to the ancient era was actually a manifestation of its own advancement. That's right. The spirit sea realm was advancing toward the 33 heavens and was nurturing its own connate and postnatal Taos. The reason why the spiritual energy in Providence had skyrocketed was that there were countless worlds of various sizes surging with the chaos tide in the depths of the endless void, squeezing over and merging with the spirit sea realm. Or perhaps the spirit sea realm had accidentally devoured some heavyweight treasure. In short, due to certain factors, the spirit sea realm's spiritual energy had skyrocketed and its providence had risen, returning to the ancient era. According to Qin Feng's memories of the Age of Chaos, there was no doubt that the spirit sea realm's advancement had failed. The interference of many over-gods and the plundering of the reincarnators had caused this world, which did not have a particularly strong foundation to begin with, to have unexpectedly advanced, completely losing its final opportunity. Ever since he deduced the outcome of the spirit sea realm's advancement, Qin Feng had a certain idea in his heart. Qin Feng naturally knew what a huge world in the midst of advancement meant. It contained shocking opportunities and opportunities. It could be said that it was the dream of many powerhouses who wanted to break through to the 16th stage. If it could be done properly, it might be possible to advance to the 16th stage. However, if the spirit sea realm wanted to advance, the resistance would be incomparably great. As the world advanced, the spiritual energy and providence would skyrocket, and the deity position would be born. This was a grand banquet for the various sects, factions, and powerhouses of the spirit sea realm. However, if the spirit sea realm wanted to advance, a true god could not appear before this world advanced. As everyone knew, the appearance of every true god would occupy and consume a portion of the world's origin energy. If it were in the previous eras, this consumption would not only not consume the spirit sea realm's origin energy, but it would also be beneficial to a certain extent. However, at this time, it was more fatal. It would definitely cause the spirit sea realm's advancement to fail. However, if they forcefully obstructed the path of those powerhouses to become true gods and caused the powerhouses of the world to unite against a common enemy, even Qin Feng, who was a perfected great emperor, might not be able to gain an advantage in the end. Wang Daoi's suggestion came at the right time. It coincided with a certain idea that welled up in Qin Feng's heart. Chapter 1399. The two of them communicated with their divine wills. Unifying the spirit sea realm wasn't a small matter. There were many details that needed to be arranged. There were also many ancient and immemorial experts. Although those experts weren't a threat to Qin Feng and Wang Daoi, if they resisted violently, it would lead to a calamity that would cause irreparable damage to the spirit sea realm. At that time, it would greatly affect Qin Feng's plan. Two powerful divine wills intertwined in the air. On the throne in the middle, the black-robed youth was like a quiet and terrifying demon god. The specific details weren't something that could be discussed in a short period of time. Half a day later, Qin Feng sensed a familiar aura. His brows twitched as he diverted a portion of his attention. Outside the Emperor Star City, there were dozens of luxurious carriages made of mutated beasts that were slowly making their way towards the Emperor Star City. Ever since the Emperor Star City became the center of many spirit domains, there were many cities and towns that rose up around it. This place had almost become a holy land of martial arts that shook the heavens. The number of cultivators and merchant caravans that came and went every day definitely exceeded the imagination of ordinary people. Outside the city gates, there were intersecting official roads that extended in all directions. At the city gates of the Emperor Star City, There were hundreds and thousands of primordial chaos Xingqian school disciples stationed there to maintain order. These primordial chaos Xingqian school disciples usually had their back straight. Even the disciples of the 10 great divine sects would have to bow down in front of them. When passing through the city gates, even kings and quasi-emperors would have to undergo a normal inspection before they were allowed to enter the primordial chaos Xingqian school. But today, outside the city gates, there were many cultivators and powers that were astonished. What shocked them the most was that the primordial chaos Xingqian school disciples were lined up on both sides of the carriages in an unusually respectful manner. They watched as the gigantic carriages entered the huge city gates under the steady and vigorous steps of the mutated beasts. Many experts couldn't help but reveal strange expressions. Are there guests from the primordial chaos Xingqian school? At the side, someone couldn't help but ask curiously. Many people turned around when they heard the question. The person who spoke was an ancient expert. This ancient expert's aura from the ancient era was clearly different from others. Furthermore, his eyes were as blue as the ocean, which was different from the eyes of ordinary humans. Clearly, he was of a different race. This was a quasi-deity from one of the 100 ancient races, the water spirit race. Many experts were surprised, but that was all. Although it was rare for such a foreign race to descend from the antiquity age, it was not unheard of. However, quasi-deity level experts were still respected figures in the various spirit domains. Many people at the side looked much more respectful. Sir, this is the team from the northern spiritual regions by family. At this moment, a purple-clothed middle-aged man with a dignified appearance walked out and spoke with a smile. It's the lesser celestial Wei Wufeng from the Spirit Light Caravan. Someone at the side recognized the identity of the expert who spoke. For a moment, it caused a slight commotion. In the past, lesser celestial beings were considered to be high and mighty existences. But with the development of the past half a year, the number of them had increased exponentially. It was true that lesser celestial beings were powerful, but compared to those legendary kings and quasi-emperors, they were insignificant. What caused the commotion wasn't Wei Wufeng's cultivation, but his identity. The Spirit Light Caravan was rumored to be one of the subordinate caravans of primordial Xingqian school. Although it was the weakest among the numerous powerful caravans of primordial Xingqian school, it was only in charge of a small region's market square. But after all, he was a member of primordial Xingqian school, and this identity made him highly respected. For a moment, many gazes fell on this expert. Wei Wufeng had a smug smile on his face. He looked around at everyone. He was also a self-proclaimed heaven-rank expert of an era in ancient times. Heavenly realm experts could be said to be at the peak of the antiquity age. But in primordial Xingqian school, he was reduced to a pawn. This huge difference was originally hard to accept, but he was willing to endure it. Moreover, during this period of time, he was deeply rejoicing that he was able to become an outer disciple of primordial Xingqian school. Only after integrating with primordial Xingqian school would those experts be able to truly feel the power and terror of primordial Xingqian school. That kind of incomparably huge deterrence was definitely not something that ordinary ancient experts could imagine. I actually know about the Bai family's direct descendants. Rumor has it that the northern spirit regions Bai family is the descendant of Bai emperor from the antiquity age. Could it be because of this? The young quasi-deity of the water spirit race raised his eyebrows. He looked extremely young. Since he had reached the peak of mid-celestial realm and was a half-step king at such an age, it could be assumed that he was also a peerless expert in his epic. He definitely wasn't a nobody. The Bai clan of a northern spirit region is indeed famous. Especially half a year ago, two peerless geniuses appeared. The Golden Emperor, Bai Qingyu, and the Son of Chaos, Bai Qingtian. These two have one great fame for the Bai clan. At this time, another voice sounded out. Everyone turned around to see a powerhouse with long, fiery red hair. He wore white clothes and carried a long sword on his back. His fiery red hair was like a raging flame. Its pure sun, heavenly monarch Liu Yan. Wei Wufeng's expression changed, his eyes filled with respect. Pure Sun Heavenly Monarch Lu Yan's cultivation was only at the 12th level World King Sage realm. He was far from being able to compare with Heaven Realm powerhouses or even quasi-deities. However, Pure Sun Heavenly Monarch was an inner court disciple of primordial Xingqian school. Many people in the surroundings also recognized the identity of this young powerhouse. Their eyes were filled with envy and respect. Pure Sun Heavenly Monarch Lu Yan was originally an inner court disciple of Xingqian school. With the rise of primordial Xingqian school had reintegrated into primordial Xingqian school half a year ago and had become a direct descendant of primordial Xingqian school. The status of most of the disciples in this branch had risen with the tide. Pure Sun Heavenly Monarch Lu Yan wasn't particularly outstanding amongst the many inner court disciples of primordial Xingqian school. It was rumored that a year ago, he had accidentally obtained a part of the ancient era's Taoist Pure Sun's inheritance and hidden treasures. However, compared to the Golden Emperor by Qing Yu and the Son of Primordial Chaos by Qing Tian, Pure Sun Heavenly Monarch Lu Yan was several grades worse. If one were to rank the proud children of heaven of the Spirit Sea world, then although Pure Sun Heavenly Monarch had a 12th level World King Sage cultivation, he would at most be a third-rate genius. As for the Golden Emperor by Qing Yu and the Son of Primordial Chaos by Qing Tian, they could be ranked as first-rate, peerless, proud children of heaven. Even amongst the ancient proud children of heaven, they weren't nameless existences. They were quasi-deity level proud children of heaven and were known as true divinity trainees. They were peerless geniuses that had the highest chance of becoming a true divinity. So that's how it is. So 2 peerless quasi-deity level proud children of heaven have come. No wonder primordial Xingqian school is so grand. Many powerhouses nodded. Seeing everyone's expressions, Lu Yan chuckled. However, the most famous of the Bai family isn't the Golden Emperor and the Son of Primordial Chaos, but someone else. It's the imperial concubine. Wei Wufeng's eyes met everyone's, and there was no lack of pride in them. Although the Golden Emperor and the Son of Primordial Chaos have some face, they are nothing in the eyes of my primordial Xingqian school. Even if a king or quasi-emperor entered my primordial Xingqian school, it wouldn't be so grand. Only the imperial concubine and the imperial concubine's family could have such extravagance. As he spoke of the imperial concubine's family, Wei Wufeng's arrogant expression was restrained, and he became abnormally respectful. There's also some envy. The Northern Spirit Region's Bai family was truly too lucky. When they were still weak, a woman from their family had become the imperial concubine of the primordial Heavenly Emperor. Just how lucky was that? Being favored by the Heavenly Emperor, the entire Bai family could be said to have risen with the tide. Chapter 1400. That's right, it was the imperial concubine's family. Thanks to Bai Yin Air, the entire Bai family in the Northern Spirit region had risen in status in the past 1.5 years after the identity of the Heavenly Emperor of Yuanshi was exposed. Even though there wasn't a single king in the Great Emperor's family, no one dared to touch their territory. After easily obtaining such a prominent position, the Bai family immediately became the new aristocratic family in the eyes of countless families and forces. At this moment, in the huge luxurious carriage in the center, the current head of the Bai family, Bai Zhan, felt the lively atmosphere at the city gate. Then, he looked at his daughter, Bai Yin, and an indescribable pride filled his eyes. It made him look even more majestic and noble, as if he was an ancient divine demon. The spiritual energy in the heaven and earth surged. With the arrival of the ancient era, almost all the bloodlines of the divine demons were activated. Most of the families with noble bloodlines were greatly strengthened by this change. There were even many families with extremely precious, pure-blooded divine demons. The Bai family was formed by the bloodline of the ancient Bai Emperor. Needless to say, their own bloodline was outstanding. They were one of the top bloodlines of the Golden God. Most of the direct descendants in the family had awakened by Emperor's golden god bloodline to some extent. With the support of this bloodline, some babies were born with the strength of a rank 4 Nirvana realm expert. Some pure-blooded babies were even known as demigods. They were born with the strength of a rank 13 holy sun. The Bai family was one of the best among the ancient divine demon families. The Golden God Emperor family was undoubtedly more powerful. However, compared to today's primeval chaos Xingqian school, it was insignificant. Bai Zhan couldn't help but rejoice in his heart. If he had chosen Dongfang Weiming from the Greater One sect as his son-in-law, not only would the Bai family not have this honor, but they would also be in trouble. It's so lively. It seems that the forces under our brother-in-law are not ordinary. At this moment, a meaningful voice came from his side. On the side, on a huge winged white tiger beast, a young expert in a white robe with golden edges spoke. He looked to be around 24 or 25 years old. His expression was cold, and he looked elegant. However, there was an extremely noble aura around him. Bai Qingtian, the son of chaos. Right now, the Gold God Emperor clan was one of the famous pure-blooded emperor clans of the Bai clan. He gazed at the huge city, and a trace of passion appeared in the eyes of this quasi-deity genius. This time, I have to ask my brother-in-law for the identity of a true disciple of Xingqian school. His chuckle was filled with pride. The Golden God Emperor clan's pure-blooded deity's aptitude was definitely not something ordinary first-rate geniuses could compare to. Since ancient times, the true disciples of Xingqian school have had to go through many rounds of screening by the sect. Moreover, today is different from the past, with the primordial Xingqian school becoming one of the 10 great divine sects. I'm afraid that your plan might fall through. Big brother. On the other side, another sneer could be heard. A huge golden eye leaped from behind and appeared on the other side of the convoy. It was a young man who looked similar to Bai Qingtian, the son of chaos. At the same time, there was also a dense and dignified aura like that of a true god. Moreover, it was even denser than Bai Qingtian's. Unlike Bai Qingtian, who was dressed as a white-robed prince, this young man was dressed in short clothes. His eyebrows were raised high, and there was a sharp aura around him that seemed to be able to cut open the sky. His sharp aura was filled with the domineering aura of an emperor. Golden Emperor Bai Qingyu, the other pure-blooded deity of the Bai family. When he saw the Golden Emperor Bai Qingyu, Bai Qingtian's face turned pale. He and his second brother had been fighting since they were young. They had fought countless times, both openly and secretly. In the past, as the son of the first wife, he had outstanding aptitude. It could be said that he had the upper hand and completely suppressed Bai Qingyu. However, a few years ago, his second brother suddenly stood out. Although Bai Qingtian was blessed with great luck and had many opportunities, he realized that he could no longer suppress his second brother. The two of them improved together and even awakened their ancestral bloodline at the same time, becoming pure-blooded. Moreover, there were many times when he was at a disadvantage and his face was covered in dust. Bai Qingtian's expression darkened, and he was about to retort. At this moment, Bai Zhan's scolding came. That's enough. Stop fighting among yourselves. Let me tell you, if you embarrass your sister in the mixed Xingqian school, I will not forgive you. Bai Qingtian had no choice but to swallow the words that were at the tip of his tongue. He glanced at Bai Qingyu with a gloomy gaze and remained silent. If it was in the past, he might not listen to Bai Zhan. However, he could not do so now. As the brother of Bai Yin-er, the imperial concubine, they could not embarrass Bai Yin-er. They could not let outsiders laugh at the imperial concubine. Golden Emperor Bai Qingyu also calmed down and bowed slightly to Bai Zhan. Bai Qingyu was different from his brother Bai Qingtian. He did not have any ambition for his brother-in-law, the Yuanshi emperor, whom he had only met once or twice. He was more curious about him. Along the way, they had passed through dozens of spiritual regions. There were too many legends about the Yuanshi emperor. After the Bai family entered the mixed Xingqian school, they went straight through. They passed through many checkpoints and went straight to the mixed origin star palace in the center. In the mixed Xingqian school, Qin Feng, who was sitting on the throne in the center, seemed to be looking at the group of people. Qin Feng was already prepared for the arrival of the Bai family. His gaze fell on the group, and the first thing he saw was the two brothers-in-law. There was a strange flicker in his eyes. The achievements of the two brothers-in-law had something to do with his training. Golden Emperor by Qingyu had the immemorial by Emperor technique of the primordial by Emperor. The immortal chaotic demon body of Bai Qing Tian, the son of chaos, all came from him. The two brothers-in-law did not let him down. In his eyes, one of them had already cultivated the immortal chaotic demon body to the immortal realm. He had already cultivated the immortal chaotic demon body. Deshang's immortal chaotic demon body was known as one of the strongest battle bodies. Even if it was smashed into pieces, it could be reborn in the primordial qi of the heavens. Bai Qing Tian was only one step away from reaching the immortal realm of chaos and immortality. That was the chaotic Heaven Lord realm. The chaotic Heaven Lord, like the Supreme Heart Demon, the Crimson Emperor, the Hell Demon, and the Saint Demon Son of Heaven, was also a kind of supreme heavenly demon. It was the highest achievement of the chaotic demon Tao, one of the 10 branches of the demon Tao. It was known as the Lord of primordial qi of the heavens. It was said that it could control the changes of primordial qi of the heavens and earth. Its physical body had already merged with the primordial qi of the heavens and earth, and it was the highest realm of the primordial qi god. Chapter 1401. It was not easy to get to where he was now. It was obvious that Bai Qing Tian had received a portion of great Emperor Qin Feng's providence. His providence had flourished, and he had risen rapidly. That was how he had reached this stage. If he became a chaotic Lord of Heaven, he would be able to hold his own against the supreme beings. Qin Feng could see that the fate of the chaotic demon sect had manifested in Bai Qing Tian. As long as he did not die, he would be able to take root and become the primogenitor of the 10 demonic sects. On the other hand, the Metal Emperor by Qingyu was not inferior either. She had received the immemorial by Emperor spell from Jian Wushuang. She seemed to have had a fortuitous encounter and obtained a congenital magic treasure of the metal element. Her aura was unusually strong. The metal element godhead in her body was about to materialize into a metal element half-godhead. However, the two brothers-in-law were not the ones who had changed the most. It was someone else. Qin Feng's gaze fell on a carriage in the middle of the group. The change in Bai Yin Heir's body. Even Qin Feng couldn't help but feel surprised. Compared to Bai Qing Tian and Bai Qingyu, the aura of the divine blood was stronger. It was as if the one in the middle of the carriage was not a pure blood, but a true god. A mutated metal element true god. Unlike Bai Qing Tian and Bai Qingyu, the one in the luxurious carriage was also a pure blood of the metal element. However, there was more of a coldness that came from the condensation of the Tai Bai metal element will. Rather than calling it the metal element, it was more like a massacre. Although the aura was only that of a 10th level great sage, it was much stronger than the two brothers-in-law, Bai Qing Tian and Bai Qingyu. This is strange. Qin Feng's gaze seemed to be able to see through everything. It was as if his gaze had shrouded the carriage, and he could see the slender figure in the carriage. The beautiful woman in the carriage seemed to have sensed something. She suddenly raised her head, and a strange light flashed in her eyes. What a strong power! It can penetrate through time and space. This power is no weaker than my father's. Her voice was extremely pleasant to the ears, and even the cries of the larks did not seem to be able to match up to 1/10,000th of her charm. She seemed to be talking to herself, but she also seemed to be talking to someone. At the same time, a faint golden light appeared on her body and blocked the invisible gaze. It was as if she was resisting fate. At the same time, her expression changed as if another person had spoken. Ancestor, let me control the body, now that he has become a great emperor. All right, Bai Yin Heir. During this time, you will continue to control the body. However, I must remind you that this princess's son-in-law, the Spirit King, is about to return. Your body can only belong to Ling of Gojoseon. You'd better calm down. Otherwise, it won't do you any good. As soon as she finished speaking, the ancient aura on her body that was different from Bayan Er's gradually dissipated. Bayan Er's expression returned to normal. Her eyes moved, and she looked in the direction of the Origin Star's main hall. A joy that came from the bottom of her heart appeared on her beautiful face. Their journey was unimpeded. After passing through many palaces, the Bai family was led to the central reception hall. My husband, my good son-in-law. When Qin Feng stepped into the guest hall, he saw a pair of beautiful eyes that were as gentle as water. That white-robed lady was still as cold and elegant as before. She was still so beautiful and moving. He stepped forward and grabbed the woman in white's soft and cold hands. Then he wrapped his arms around her waist. The woman in white was a little shy. Yin, did you miss your husband? Hugging the white-clothed woman's astonishingly flexible waist, Qin Feng had a slight mischievous smile on his face. The woman in white's expression suddenly changed. She broke free from Qin Feng's hands. Emperor Qin Feng, you are now the emperor of the Origin Xingqian School. You have hundreds of huge spiritual domains under your control. You have so many beauties around you. Do you still remember me? Qin Feng laughed when he saw the woman in white's resentful and wronged look. Yenner, what are you talking about? Don't forget your poor friends. Don't leave your wife. We have known each other for a long time. How can I forget you? As for the beauties, how can they compare to you? Yenner, the #1 beauty in the northern spiritual region. Ignoring the woman in white's anger, the young man in black took a few steps forward and pressed his lips against hers. The beautiful woman in white was taken aback. She did not expect Qin Feng to be so overbearing and lascivious in front of her father and brother. Just as she was about to dodge, a steel-like strong arm wrapped around her slender waist. At this moment, she actually felt that her trembling and upright chest was actually squeezed out of shape by that steel-like chest. She was almost attacked by his pearly white teeth. Bastard! Bayan was in a daze after being violated like this. She was completely captivated by her lover. However, some people were so angry that their lungs were about to explode. The anger of being blasphemed burned fiercely. Inside Bayan Er's body, a will that was filled with great hostility turned into a woman that was 90% similar to Bayan Er. She was also a beauty that could cause the downfall of a country. However, this woman in white was even colder and more sacred. Her killing intent froze the heavens. Damn it! How dare you blaspheme my body? The woman in white's expression was cold. A terrifying golden light appeared in her illusory hands. When this golden light appeared, the law of slaughter seemed to descend. It could tear apart a god nation. The golden light that seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and earth slashed across. It was visible to the naked eye that Qin Feng, who was being intimate with Bayan Er, suddenly shattered like glass. Bai Zhan, Bai Qingtian, Bai Qingyu, and the other kings of the Xingqian school who had been watching this scene from the side changed their expressions. Why did Bayan suddenly attack the Yuanshi heavenly emperor? However, after a while, the group of people heaved a sigh of relief. 100 feet away, a black-robed figure seemed to have walked out of time and silently appeared in the void. It was only an afterimage that was slashed apart. Son-in-law, are you all right? Bai Zhan slowly walked over. After seeing that Qin Feng was fine, he immediately turned around and looked at his daughter angrily. Yen you're crazy. How could you be so ruthless to your husband? Father, haven't you noticed that our good sister's body seems to have undergone a wonderful change? On the other side, Bayan Er's faint voice was heard. He had a sneer on his face. This noble-looking young man walked to Qin Feng's side and looked at Bayan who had closed her eyes and was slowly opening them. His gaze was cold. Tell me, who are you? I'm your ancestor. Bayan slowly opened her eyes. There was a trace of coldness in her cold eyes that could freeze the heavens. As soon as her cold voice fell, Yin-Er's aura, which was only at the 10th level Great Saint, suddenly soared. It surpassed the King realm and reached the Quasi-Emperor realm. Chapter 1402. Qingtian's face stiffened and a trace of anger flickered between his eyebrows. However, this trace of anger was forcibly suppressed in the bottom of his heart. At this time, Yin was not a 10th level Great Sage, but a strong heaven rank Quasi-Emperor of the 4th level of the heaven rank. Under that extremely powerful aura, it seemed that all the time and space in the heavens were forcibly suppressed and flowed slowly. Yin looked around at the people in the field and glanced at the several kings whose expressions changed drastically and were on guard. Her expression was indifferent, but when her gaze fell on the black-robed young man with a strange gaze, a trace of fear flickered on her beautiful face. Yin was angry, but there was no lack of annoyance in her heart. The rule of the Saintess of the Bai family had been passed down for generations and had never been married. Unexpectedly, in this life, not only was she married, but she was also married to a great emperor expert. In the Archean mythological era, great emperors were also experts that all living beings and even gods looked up to. There might not even be one great emperor expert in hundreds of years. This Baiyiner is simply too lucky. Baiyu greets the Yuanshu emperor. Baiyin, no. Princess Baiyu at this time bowed slightly, looking unusually cautious. Since you know who I am, how dare you occupy my imperial concubine's body? Qin Feng's expression did not change, and his face was indifferent. However, Baiyu felt a powerful aura that was almost suffocating. Under the impact of this aura, her real spirit seemed to be drowned at any time. Powerful, too powerful. Baiyu's heart trembled violently. Even her father, the Archean Bai Emperor, who had severed his past body and had two-time imprints in his present body, did not give her such a terrifying feeling. After a moment of silence, Baiyu spoke. Yuanshu Emperor Yin-Er is my descendant. She has long been chosen by me to be the cauldron of reincarnation. I hope you can forgive me. If the great emperor is willing, Baiyu knows the whereabouts of a few Archean treasures. I can compensate the great emperor. What if I refuse? Qin Feng interrupted. The great emperor should know that Baiyu and Ling of Gojoseon are inseparable. Baiyu will forever belong to the Ling of Gojoseon. As she spoke, a long sword appeared in her hand. It was a divine sword whose name shook the heavens. Divine war sword. It was rumored that in the primordial mythological era, the war god Taoist carried a sword with him. This divine sword possessed many inconceivably powerful abilities, and it had even killed imperial emperors before. This was the reason why Baiyu dared to face a great emperor. I don't care who you belong to for eternity, but Baiyiner will definitely belong to me for eternity. You actually dare to take over her body and have sex with a wild man. Do you know that just for this reason alone, you won't be able to atone for your crimes, even if you die 100 times? Qin Feng's expression was ice-cold. Hearing this, Baiyu's face turned cold. Yuanshu Heavenly Emperor, I'm not begging you. She stared at Qin Feng with a pair of extremely cold eyes. I admit that I'm not your match for the time being, but if I want to stay or leave, no one can stop me. As soon as she finished speaking, she silently turned into a white stream of light and disappeared on the spot. She was extremely fast, far faster than any boundary emperor that Qin Feng had ever encountered. Baiyu was indeed confident. As the most beloved daughter of the primordial Bai Emperor, she was not a flower vase. She was given the title of Princess Baiyu because she had cultivated the extremely rare law of speed. Her flying speed was so fast that she was like a white fish swimming in space-time. Even the average great emperor might not be able to match her speed. In the blink of an eye, her figure broke through space-time and flew thousands of miles in the endless void. Her speed could be said to be extremely fast. The aura on her body quickly disappeared without a trace and fell into the crowd of living beings in the Tianliang spirit region. Fast. This speed was simply too fast. Many kings and the Bai family's father and son were shocked. That speed was comparable to the acceleration of space-time. So fast, in the depths of the boundless netherworld kingdom underground. Although Wang Daoyi had separated a part of his divine consciousness to communicate, another part of his divine consciousness had also noticed the abnormality in the main hall. The speed of wind, light, space, and time seems to have been broken through by her. At this speed, even the average great emperor would be inferior to her for a short period of time. A strange look appeared in Wang Daoyi's eyes. In all fairness, even if he encountered a boundary emperor who cultivated the law of speed, it would be quite a headache. Everyone looked at Qin Feng. In the main hall, Qin Feng stood with his hands behind his back, smiled coldly, and raised his head. Do you think you can escape from the palm of my hand with this level of speed? Under the gazes of the primordial Xingqian school's kings and the Bai family's father and son, Qin Feng stretched out a hand. He casually grabbed with his hand. Rumble. There seemed to be a huge river emerging in the place where Whitefish was flying, and it seemed that time had begun to flow backward. The group of people's eyes trembled violently, and the whole place was abnormally silent. Flowing light flashed by like a rewound film, and in an instant, the surrounding void vibrated. A graceful figure seemed to have been forcibly restrained from the depths of space and time, and appeared in the same place. Space-time rewind. 3 live slash. In the boundless netherworld kingdom, Wang Daoyi suddenly stood up when he saw this scene, and his eyes were full of disbelief. How is this possible? Baiyu's figure appeared in the same place again. She looked around, and her pupils involuntarily contracted. For a moment, her expression was like a dream, and she could not believe her eyes. She clearly remembered that she had used the power of the law of speed and appeared thousands of kilometers away, and used the concealment technique of the Bai Emperor's clan to transform into an ordinary person to hide. She was sure that even a great emperor would not be able to find her in a short time. But why did she return to the same place? This junior brother has really begun to control the power of time and space. Wang Daoyi's face flushed red on the emperor's throne in the depths of the boundless netherworld. It was not difficult to control the power of time and space. Ordinary great emperors, and even quasi-emperors, could do it. Wang Daoyi himself had already come into contact with some of the mysteries of time and space, and by using great emperor power, he could tear apart a part of time and space. But if he could control and use time and space, it was rumored that this was the domain of a level 16 creator god. Wang Daoyi could not imagine that this young junior brother had begun to set foot in this realm. Qin Feng's lips curled into a smile. Control of time and space. That's right, control of time and space. As the 3 lives slash was shattered and absorbed by the main body, he could clearly touch the long river of time. Ordinary great emperors, even if they could slash all 3 lives, could only protect themselves from the invasion of time as much as possible. This was considered to be immortality to a certain extent, but he was different. He controlled the creator space, and the creator space had matured. He already had a deeper understanding of the creator space's various mysteries of time and space, such as freezing time and space, cutting time and space apart, and freezing time and space. He had indeed controlled a very weak trace of the use of time and space. Although it was only a trace of power, compared to great emperors of the same level, it had an overwhelming advantage. Chapter 1403. Qin Feng looked at the shocked Bai Yenner and stood with his hands behind his back. His sleeves fluttered slightly as he smiled faintly. You can continue to run. If you manage to escape from my grasp today, I might as well let you live. Primeval Emperor, don't be too smug. From afar, Baiyu looked coldly at Qin Feng. Your cultivation is indeed unprecedented, even surpassing my father, the primordial Bai Emperor. But don't be too arrogant. Do you really think you can catch me with your cultivation? Let me tell you, this body is mine. Her figure flashed, and she once again cut through the endless void. Her speed was extremely fast, like an illusory white fish swimming through time and space. In an instant, she appeared in the void thousands of miles away from the Emperor Star City. It was obvious that her comprehension of the law of speed had reached a shocking level. Space-time freeze. Qin Feng stood with his hands behind his back, smiled faintly, and stretched out his hand again. Wherever his palm passed, the void froze, time froze, and thousands of miles of the void froze. Baiyu's figure, which was like a faint stream of light, suddenly froze. Insignificant skill. Seeing this terrifying scene, a cold smile appeared on Baiyu's beautiful face, as if she had already expected it. Heaven-rank law, flowing light phantom. Her body twisted, and her graceful curves changed. In an instant, it was like the endless school of fish had split into thousands of white fish, swimming in the depths of the endless void, flying in all directions. Some of her speed doppelgangers were frozen by Qin Feng's space-time freeze, but most of them escaped the range of the space-time freeze. Even so, she still had the strength to retort. Primeval Emperor, I have to admit that if you want to kill me, I might not be able to resist. But if you want to capture me alive, you're dreaming. When Ling of Gojoseon returns, you will pay for your arrogance. Ling of Gojoseon? What's Ling of Gojoseon? He's just a coward who can't even protect the person he loves. In my eyes, even if he breaks through to the Emperor realm, he's still a piece of trash. Qin Feng sneered. His faint voice was like invisible ripples that poured into the endless void, trembling in time and space. Space-time power, space-time rewind. A huge, heaven-engulfing power erupted from his body, and the vast, invisible brilliance passed through. Princess Baiyu's figure once again appeared in time. She was forcibly dragged out of time and returned to the main hall a moment later. As long as he did not sever the three lives and erase his traces in the long river of time, he would not be able to escape from the palm of Qin Feng, who was an almighty of the divine path, who could control time and space. War God Sword, / heaven and earth. Baiyu did not panic as expected. Her body radiated light like dew and lightning, like a burning sun. The moment she was forcibly dragged out of time by the space-time power, she turned into a divine light and appeared above Qin Feng's head in the next moment. A divine sword that could split heaven and earth slashed through the air. Princess Baiyu had a fierce look on her face. She had purposely dragged the primeval Great Emperor back with the power of space-time just for this earth-shattering attack. The War God Sword was the sword of the primordial age Taoist god of war. In his prime, the war god Taoist was a peerless, ferocious person who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Taoist Dinghai, Taoist creation, and even Taoist primordial chaos. Under the war god sword, there was definitely more than one godly king and emperor realm expert who had been killed. There were even ancient overgods who shed blood under the sword light. Within the faint golden sword light, space-time was split into two. In addition, Princess Baiyu was almost as fast as time. Even if she had slashed her past body, the current Emperor Realm expert would still be injured by this attack. However, at this moment, Baiyu's lightning-like figure suddenly froze like a beam of light when she was a few hundred feet away from Qin Feng. Princess Baiyu's expression changed drastically. She tried her best to swing the War God Sword, but a figure suddenly appeared and snatched the War God Sword from Baiyu's hand. Qin Feng smiled faintly as he felt the power in the War God Sword that could easily tear through time and space. This is a good sword. The sword's power was overwhelming, and it also had a sharp sword intent that could slash heaven and earth. It was ranked third on the All Heavens Divine Weapon ranking. It was a peerless sword. It was even stronger than the Water Diffraction Sword. Holding in his hand, the War God Sword had a spirit. There was an immortal sword intent that could destroy heaven and earth, violently resisting. Even Qin Feng felt that he could not suppress it. His body seemed to be split apart by the sword intent, and blood splattered everywhere. Qin Feng raised his eyebrows and simply threw it into the chief god's space. Boom! As if the wind and clouds changed, rays of sword light bloomed. The sword light was like an immortal rainbow that stirred heaven and earth. However, under the suppression of the chief god space, although the war god sword was strong, it was gradually suppressed by the chief god space. Not a bad treasure. After refining it, it can be used as a handy weapon to replace the water diffraction sword. He thought to himself. He turned around and his eyes turned cold. His sharp gaze was like an unsheathed sword that locked onto Baiyu. How could you? Baiyu showed fear at this moment and clenched her teeth. Seeing this, Qin Feng sneered. The war god sword was indeed very strong. It was even stronger than one could imagine. Even his space-time energy was ineffective against the war god sword. It was easily torn apart and pierced through. However, Baiyu forgot that he did not have to use the space-time energy on Baiyu to control space-time. He could use the space-time energy on himself. He jumped into the past space-time, and before Baiyu could react, he imprisoned and subdued her. However, returning to the past consumed too much energy. Even with his current cultivation, returning to the past for 2 or 3 moments consumed almost 70 to 80% of the divine power in his body. Just 3 moments ago, he had used up almost all of his strength. Moreover, the depths of space-time eroded the body greatly. In just 3 moments, his Dasheng, almost perfect born Taoism aptitude, was almost shattered. His understanding of space-time has reached such a level. In the boundless netherworld kingdom, Wang Daoi's eyes were dull as he muttered. Compared to the confused Baiyu, he saw it clearly just now. His divine telekinesis was sharper and clearly saw that Qin Feng had disappeared into the present space-time for 3 moments. Traveling through space-time was undoubtedly more difficult than ordinary space-time reversal and space-time acceleration. Reaching this step meant that Qin Feng had probably reached the 5th stage of the heaven rank, the peak of the great emperor realm. He could break through to the 16th stage of the overgod realm at any time. In the great hall, he flew back from the depths of space-time with Baiyu in his hand. Next, how should I deal with a disobedient woman like you? Qin Feng stared at Baiyu, his eyes flickering with a chilling light that made one's heart palpitate. Baiyu was awake, as if she was in a dream. However, she was not as weak as everyone imagined. There was a hint of disdain in her cold expression. She was very domineering. Heavenly Emperor of Yuan-Shi, you are indeed very strong. You are so strong that I can't fight back. However, you can't kill me, and you can't kill me. If you kill me, you will kill your own woman. Chapter 1404. You think I can't destroy your true spirit? Qin Feng was calm and unruffled, but his body emitted waves of biting cold. It's not that you can't, it's that you can't. Baiyu's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Feng hatefully. Now, my true spirits and Baiyin Er's true spirits have merged. We're like 2 snake heads on a 2-headed snake. We're bound together for good and for ill. Qin Feng's expression changed, and he grabbed with his hand. Baiyin Er's expression changed. The next moment, her eyes rolled back and she fell to the ground. A true spirit was grabbed from the top of her head. It was a strange, true spirit. There were 2 small figures that looked exactly like Baiyin, but one of them was illusory and the other was real. The illusory, true spirit seemed like it could be destroyed by a gust of wind, but the other one was a real person the size of a thumb. The 2 true spirits were like conjoined twins. They seemed to be able to pull apart a little, but in fact their true spirits had undergone a strange change and seemed to have merged perfectly. Qin Feng had traveled through several worlds, but he had never seen such a strange phenomenon. Their true spirits were actually able to fuse together. According to Qin Feng's understanding, a person's true spirit was condensed from a life imprint. However, each life imprint was unique, and it was impossible for them to overlap. But after taking a closer look, Qin Feng's expression suddenly became somewhat enlightened. Baiyin and Baiyu were both by Emperor's descendants, and they were both pure-blooded. Their life imprints were extremely close. Moreover, Baiyin was essentially a distant ancestor of Baiyu. Whether it was her aura, appearance, or even soul, they were extremely similar. This was a coincidence. Of course, The most important reason was that Bai Yu was the reincarnation of a remnant true spirit. She was about to be annihilated, but Bai Yin used her own soul power to prolong her life. By chance, such a change happened. This resulted in a situation where there were two completely different true spirits, one of which contained the other, and the other contained the other. Qin Feng's face was gloomy. It was not that he did not have a way to kill Bai Yu. However, once Bai Yin was killed, theoretically speaking, a part of her true spirit would be missing. By then, she would basically have no chance of attaining the Great Tao. This was equivalent to personally destroying Bai Yin-er's future. How could he be willing to do that? What do you think, Primeval Emperor? Above the true spirit, Bai Yu opened his eyes and looked at Qin Feng coldly with a trace of coldness. He was high and mighty. Being able to force a great emperor into a corner gave Bai Yu a special sense of accomplishment. Of the two conjoined true spirits, Bai Yin was more powerful. Bai Yin was completely suppressed, and her illusory true spirit was forced into a deep sleep. Seeing Bai Yu's arrogant look, Qin Feng sneered. He opened his hands, and invisible streams of light appeared and turned into a huge seal. Like two extremes of light and darkness, visible to the naked eye, two ancient runes fell inch by inch into the true spirits of Bai Yin and Bai Yu, forming a Taiji diagram of light and darkness. Bai Yu and Bai Yin were the two eyes of the array, like two scales. This was another seal that Qin Feng had created in the light and darkness chaos seal. It was the light and darkness chaos true spirit balance seal. Under the secret seal, the two situations of Bai Yu and Bai Yin could balance each other. Bai Yu could no longer suppress Bai Yin-er's true spirit and forced her into a deep sleep. With this seal, the two could even be separated to a certain extent in the light and darkness balance formed by the secret seal. What is this? How dare you seal my true spirit? Bai Yu shrieked. Bai Yu clearly sensed that the power of the true spirit was weakening. It flowed like water to Bai Yin-er's true spirit on the other side, causing Bai Yin-er's true spirit to directly turn from illusory to real. Husband. At this time, Bai Yin also opened her eyes from her deep sleep and saw Qin Feng. She was cold and elegant, but tender like water. She and Bai Yu's true spirit were connected. Although they were not one, they could still communicate telepathically. Although Bai Yu was very strong and could hide his thoughts, to a certain extent, she was suppressed and could not sense it. However, as the two were balanced, she could clearly see what was happening to Bai Yu. Qin Feng nodded slightly. With a wave of his slender fingers, the true spirits of the two women submerged into their bodies uncontrollably. Bai Yin opened her eyes and looked at Qin Feng with her beautiful eyes. Qin Feng's eyes moved, and he suddenly laughed. He took a few steps forward and hugged Bai Yin. My dear, it seems like we haven't been intimate for a long time. Bai Yin-er's beautiful face flushed. She had always been cold, so how could she stand Qin Feng's direct words? Moreover, the father and son of the Bai family were right beside them. Let go of me, you scoundrel. Bai Yin struggled softly. Qin Feng chuckled and whispered into Bai Yin-er's ear, I can't let go of that. Madam, take advantage of the fact that your husband has yet to break through to the 16th Order King God realm and give birth to a child for me. Although Bai Yin was still blushing at Qin Feng's words, she did not struggle anymore. As everyone knew, it was almost impossible for one to give birth to a child after reaching rank 16 Lord level. She was about to nod, but a moment later, a struggle appeared in her eyes. In an instant, her pretty face turned cold, and her beautiful eyes stared at Qin Feng like a she-wolf. Primeval Emperor, let go of me. Compared to Bai Yin-er's naivety, Bai Yu's temperament was undoubtedly more mature. It was as if she had gone through the baptism of time and had seen countless intellectual beauties. The two temperaments were so different that it was obvious at a glance. Princess Bai Yu could not help but run out. Let go of you? Why should I? Qin Feng chuckled coldly. You should go back and stay there. After saying that, Qin Feng revealed a strange expression on his face. Of course, you could just watch, or you can choose to come down and experience my masculinity for yourself. Forget it. Qin Feng laughed and ignored Princess Bai Yu's expression. He carried Bai Yin, and went straight into the harem. Bai Zhan, Bai Qingyu, and Bai Qingtian were dumbfounded. They wanted to say something, but they were stopped outside the harem by the kings of primordial Xingqian school. This junior brother Qin is really lucky with women. In the underworld kingdom, Wang Daoyi sensed the sudden interruption of divine thought. He looked in the direction of primordial Xingqian school and smiled faintly. However, with that junior brother's current strength, perhaps there's more room for that plan to be executed. A strange light flickered in his eyes. As the only two great emperors of primordial Xingqian school, the stronger Qin Feng was, the greater the benefits. With the evolution of the Spirit Sea realm and the descent of the Ancient Era, the prodigies of the Ancient and Primordial eras, as well as the Ancient experts, would further recover their strength in a short period of time. Among those quasi-emperors, there might be someone who could break through the last step and become a new emperor. Chapter 1405. 3 days later, in a palace among the side halls of the Origin Star's main hall, Qin Feng had just put on his clothes and left. On a huge, top-notch star-cold jade bed, a perfect white jade body was covered under a thin quilt. At this time, Bayern opened her eyes. Her expression looked very strange. Sometimes she was shy, angry, lazy, and sometimes she gritted her teeth like a lioness. Damn bastard, scoundrel, pervert! At this time, Baiyu was in control of her body. Feeling the numbness in her body, as well as the special lazy and powerless aura, she gritted her teeth. For 2 or 3 days, although Bayern was in control of her body, as a conjoined true spirit, she could feel it. She couldn't even block it. Those many strange tricks and the huge impact still reverberated in her heart. Every time she thought about it, her heart would shake, and it would make her feel a deep sense of hatred. There was also an indescribable anger and strangeness. Okay, Sister Baiyu, don't complain. As his woman, you can't go back to your so-called Prince Ling of Gojoseon. Right at this moment, another indifferent voice resounded, and it carried a trace of laziness. Baiyu, shut up. Baiyu shouted angrily. Sister Baiyu, you don't have to be angry. In the end, you only have yourself to blame for ending up like this. If you hadn't tried to forcibly occupy my body back then, you and I wouldn't have ended up like this. Baiyu-er's expression was indifferent. Do you think I'm willing to share a husband with other people? As soon as she finished speaking, Baiyu had already walked down from the cold jade bed. She was barefoot, and under the white gauze, the boundless spring scenery was faintly discernible. She appeared beside the bronze mirror like a fairy. She raised her eyebrows, looked at the beautiful woman in the bronze mirror, and smiled coldly. Moreover, in my opinion, Prince Ling of Gojoseon doesn't care about you that much. The expression of the white-clothed beauty in the mirror suddenly changed. Her face turned gloomy. Baiyu, don't you dare try to drive a wedge between this princess and Ling of Gojoseon. Don't be complacent. I'm a quasi-emperor with countless secret techniques. I'll definitely find a way to break the seal. This body will belong to me sooner or later. But soon, the white-robed woman in the mirror calmed down and smiled faintly. Then, another cold and indifferent voice sounded. What a stubborn person! In the main hall of the Primordial Star. After spending 3 days with Baiyu in the harem, Qin Feng finally walked out. In the middle of the throne in the hall, a pale, golden, ancient longsword appeared in his hand. The body of the sword was made of the Golden Emperor, and the ancient pattern seemed to have been born naturally, running through the entire sword. He held the sword puppet with one hand. At this moment, he felt as if his body was in perfect harmony with the divine sword. The divine sword was like an extension of his body. Divine war sword. This sword that belonged to the primordial war god Taoist had finally been refined by him. He could feel the fierce killing intent coming from the divine war sword. This was a sword that was born from destruction. It seemed to be a peerless treasure born from the innate destruction origin. It could turn destruction into origin power. The more destruction there was, the more powerful the sword would be, and the more powerful the sword would be. The stronger the battle intent, the more powerful the sword would be. This sword was worthy of being ranked third on the All Heavens Divine Weapon list. Compared to the Water Scene Diffraction Sword, it was more powerful and more suitable for Qin Feng. Creation and destruction were actually separated by a single thought. This divine war sword had fallen into the hands of Baiyu. It was truly a waste. Comprehending the true meaning of destruction in the depths of the sword, Qin Feng reversed the process of creation. In his sea of consciousness, the three creation divine personas slowly rotated and became more and more mysterious. At this moment, his divine consciousness moved. He opened his eyes. At the same time, a disciple walked in from outside the hall. "Emperor, there are 2 guests outside. They claim to be your old friends. Let them in." A faint voice sounded from the throne. Qin Feng's eyes revealed a trace of a smile. His divine consciousness sensed and already knew who the visitor was. Soon, there was a series of rustling footsteps outside the hall. The visitor's speed was very fast. Soon, he stepped into the hall. The first thing he saw was hundreds of elders working hard, cleaning up and handling all kinds of official documents. There were also hundreds of disciples waiting by the side, waiting for orders at any time. At the door, there were many disciples entering and leaving. In the Emperor Star City, there were courtyards and side halls that were specially used to welcome guests. However, Qin Feng liked the atmosphere in the Origin Star's main hall. Usually, he would receive the worship of many experts from other sects in the Origin Star's main hall. He would even receive experts from other sects here. There were 2 guests. When one of them saw Qin Feng, he took a few steps forward and bowed with a face full of joy. Disciple Lu Yin greets the sect master. "Junior brother Lu Yin, there's no need to be so polite. Back then, you and I were from the same academy and have a deep friendship. There's really no need to be so polite." On the throne, Qin Feng stood up. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Lu Yin and helped him up with a smile. The guest was none other than the Pure Sun Heavenly Monarch, Lu Yin. The Pure Sun Heavenly Monarch was Qin Feng's classmate and good friend in All Stars College. They were both from the Azure Dragon Academy and had a good relationship in the past. A year ago, when Qin Feng returned to Xingqian School, he heard that a group of his good friends had been harmed by the Z-Wei Star Monarch. Many reincarnated Star Monarchs were scattered everywhere and had changed their names. No one knew where they were, and it was a pity. Being helped up by Qin Feng, Lu Yin chuckled. Although his former classmate was now a great emperor and one of the 2 rulers of the Origin Xingqian School, Lu Yin did not feel restrained. However, he didn't feel restrained at all. He still felt that the other party was as cultured and refined as before. "After not seeing you for a few years, junior brother Lu Yin seems to have changed a lot." Qin Feng looked at Lu Yin. In the past, Lu Yin cultivated the pure sun technique. At this time, his aura was even more vast and blazing, like the sun in the sky. He also saw that there seemed to be a huge sun burning fiercely in his junior brother's mind. That was the aura of the 2nd generation of the Great Yang Star. "I did have a fortuitous encounter, but it's not as good as senior brother." Lu Yin shook his head. He was considered a genius in All Stars College, especially after the reincarnation of the stars. After the constellations entered his body, his aptitude was comparable to some connate holy spirits. Along the way, he also had some fortuitous encounters. After being persecuted by the Z-Wei Star Monarch and leaving Xingqian School, he comprehended part of the origin and obtained part of the legacy of the primordial pure sun Taoist. In a short time, his strength soared. Seeing Lu Yan's expression, Qin Feng smiled slightly. Then, he looked at the other guest. The 3rd sword ancestor, Dugu Xie. "Qin Feng, long time no see. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.